to the limits. Look out below and you will see the clouds beneath, way up high where no one has been. Break out your spirit, you know it's waiting to begin. So ride upon the wind. These guys come out of nowhere one by one. Their sights are set upon the land we love, and vibes are the cue for me. Fight, fight, fight. I'll guard the planet like a shield for a night. So no, I won't stop fighting till it's over. Won't run away. And you can bet that Earth will keep on turning. I'm making sure it's safe. Join in the face of my fists are sturdy in their faith. They'll never shake. Ain't nobody stopping it burn. Show what we're made of. I'll change the future with my nerves to one that we deserve for the world.
Gogeta is taken by Shinken and Vegito to the highest point in the entire universe, a gigantic planet that has a very peculiar appearance, with one half of the planet being identical to the planet of the gods of destruction, and the other half being identical to the planets of the Supreme Kais. As soon as he arrives at that place, Gogeta finds it a little strange, and says that he feels two very conflicting energies on that planet. Vegito explains by saying that this happens because in one half of the planet lives the Supreme Kai, who has a good and peaceful essence, and on the other side lives the god of destruction, who has an aggressive and destructive essence. Gogeta explains that where he comes from, the worlds of Kaioshins and Hakaishins are completely separate and far from each other. Vegito is a little surprised by that, and says that this seems a bit stupid, since if a Kaioshin dies, the Hakaishin also dies, and vice versa. So it is smarter if these two gods remained close to each other. Gogeta stops to think about it a little and ends up agreeing, since in his world, someone has already used this weakness in the connection between gods once and killed them all. Suddenly, someone appears behind them saying the following: "Oh, that must have been a desperate situation." When Gogeta turns to see who it is, he realizes that it's Zamasu behind him, and at the same time he gets scared. "Zamasu, what are you doing here?" Gogeta's scare surprises everyone, including Zamasu himself, who responds by saying that he is the Supreme Kai, so it's natural for him to be there. At that moment, Gogeta remembers that he is in a parallel dimension and that things there are not like in his world. Focusing on Zamasu for a moment, he can feel that there are no evil intentions, so he calms down. Then he asks who the god of destruction of this universe is, and as he was already waiting for the question, the god of destruction comes floating to them, introducing himself. "That's me. I'm known as Chamras, the Destroyer." When Gogeta sees this god of destruction, he is very surprised, since this being is identical to Beerus and Champa, only taller and more muscular. Gogeta can't help but comment on this similarity, and tells this god called Chamras that he is identical to two gods he knows, called Beerus and Champa. "Wow, so my boys have become gods somewhere?" Chamras asks. Gogeta asks by what he means by "my boys," but the answer comes before Chamras says, as he notices an explosion in that region of the planet, and then sees Beerus and Champa flying through the sky in an exchange of blows. But these two aren't like the Beerus and Champa he knows. They're kids. "You bastard, you stole my apple!" Champa screams in complaint. "I saw it first," Beerus retorts. Chamras sighs, complaining that these two just care about eating, sleeping, and fighting all day. Who would have thought that I would see Beerus and Champa as children? This trip is full of surprises, Gogeta thinks. But then Shinken draws their attention to the issue that matters most. Well, now that everyone is properly introduced, let's explain the situation a little better to Mr. Gogeta. In the castle of the god of destruction, Chamras, Shinken, Gogeta, Vegito, and Zamasu meet at the table to discuss the entire situation. Shinken, Chamras, and Zamasu drink tea made by the Kaioshin, while Gogeta and Vegito devour a shipment of dinosaur meat. As they progress through the meal and drink, the situation is better explained. Gogeta talks about his origin and how he received a mission from an order called the Dimensional Patrol to come to this reality and help with the problems that are happening. And the others explain to Gogeta everything that is happening, which in fact had already been explained by Vegito. but the others go into more detail, including explaining a little bit about their universe. This universe they are in is completely different from the universe that Gogeta knows. Unlike Gogeta's dimension, which has a true multiverse, this dimension only has a single universe, but it is much larger than the multiverse from which Gogeta comes. It is also explained that unlike the multiverse where Gogeta comes from, this great universe only has one god of destruction, God of Creation, and Guardian Angel, which are Chamras, Zamasu, and Daishinken respectively. In this reality, at the time of the God of Destruction's greatest slumber, the mortals Goku and Vegeta were called by Zamasu to fight an extremely powerful demon called Majin Buu. But Buu was so powerful that they needed to resort to the fusion technique, and to do so, they used the Potara earrings. The result was that the two ended up staying together indefinitely. Gogeta at first finds this strange to have happened, since in his reality, mortals do not remain fused eternally with the Potara fusion. But he understands that it seems that in this dimension, things are different. It is also explained to Gogeta that after the fusion, Goku and Vegeta became very powerful, so they thought it would be a good idea to train Vegito to better control his powers, and also acquire more power. Vegito was personally trained by Daishinken and Chamras, and ended up becoming what they consider a near-perfect warrior, knowing how to balance the fighting style of an angel and a god of destruction. As a disciple of the angel and the Hakaishin, Vegito is being one of the main helpers in this disastrous situation, involving the interdimensional invasion. Suddenly, they all hear something like an alarm go off. At that moment, Vegito takes something out of his clothes, a radar similar to the Dragon Radar. "What is that?" Gogeta asks. Vegito responds that this is a radar that detects dimensional anomalies, and now something serious is happening, so he needs to go. Gogeta obviously offers to go along, and so they teleport. Chamras, Zamasu, and Daishinken remain silent for a few moments, until finally they burst into laughter, saying that no matter the dimension, it seems that these Saiyans were always very rude. On a planet called Konats, a real massacre was taking place. A giant monster attacks the planet with great brutality, voraciously and cruelly eliminating the inhabitants. At that moment, this monster attacks the planet's main city, where it encounters resistance from the most powerful portion of the planet's army. But even in the face of the maximum resistance of the inhabitants, the demonic creature does not see a worthy challenge and crushes Konat's soldiers, as if they were mere insects in his path. Above this monster lies a man of small stature, but whose titanic evil compensates for the smallness of his body. "Go, Hero de Garn, destroy all those damn bugs," the man says, laughing. This little man is called Hoi, an extremely skilled wizard who managed to dominate the most powerful beast that existed in his dimension, and now brings terror wherever he goes. As the monster named Hero de Garn approaches the center of the planet's capital, a group of soldiers appears before him in the sky. At the head of this group are two men, one taller and one smaller. The first is called Tapion, and the second is called Minotia, who are respectively the captain and lieutenant of the planet's special forces. Captain Tapion, full of determination, shouts at the monster, "We are the Konats elite force, and we will not let you pass." Tapion makes a sign with his hands, and then the soldiers under his command join together and fire a gigantic blast of energy at the demon. However, for Hero de Garn, this is nothing, and with a flaming breath, he swallows the soldiers' energy, and they turn them all into ashes with his flames. Tapion and Minotia manage to dodge the fireballs spit by Hero de Garn, but mourn the loss of their companions. Furious, Tapion draws his sword and goes at the monster, cursing him. Meanwhile, Minotia heads towards Hoi, trying to take advantage of the monster's distraction, with Tapion to try to eliminate the one who controls him. Minotia catches up to Hoi and throws a punch, but he is seriously injured when the evil wizard creates an electrosphere around him, severely electrocuting the young warrior. Hoi then paralyzes Minotia with telekinesis, leaving Konat's soldiers completely immobilized. Tapion, who is trying to distract Hero de Garn, sees what is happening and shouts for his lieutenant, who is also his younger brother. He tries to go help, but the distraction with Minotia costs him a grip from Hero de Garn, who completely traps him with his giant hand. Keeping Minotia trapped with one hand, Hoi accumulates a large amount of magical flames with the other. It will be a deadly attack. "Brother, no!" Tapion screams in despair as he struggles uselessly in Hero de Garn's hand in a failed attempt to escape. At that moment, Gogeta and Vegito arrive in Konat's sky and immediately glimpse the situation. "Looks like we're already in the middle of the action," Gogeta says as he eagerly prepares to go help. But the two are caught off guard when suddenly someone else arrives with what appears to be a teleportation technique. And that someone is Gohan. When Gogeta sees a parallel version of Gohan appears in Konats, he is surprised and asks what is happening. Vegito, on the other hand, isn't that surprised. He just smiles and says that it looks like they won't need to do anything. Suddenly, a figure passes in front of Hoi. Minoshia, who was paralyzed by Hoi's magic, completely disappears from the wizard's vision. What is that? Hoi asks in shock. Minoshia is now safe on the planet's ground. Not even he knows how he got there. It's only after a few seconds that Hoi notices Gohan standing in the sky, staring at him and Hiradegarn. The evil wizard asks who he is and how he got there. The only ones who saw what happened were Gogeta and Vegito. Gogeta comments that Gohan moved at such high speed that he was able to rescue Minoshia from Hoi, leaving him on the ground, and then returned to the sky at such a high speed that no one else could see his movements. Vegito maintaining his smile as he says that Gogeta hasn't seen anything yet. Directing his attention to Hiradegarn, Gohan emanates his power in the form of an aura of transparent energy surrounded by lightning, directing a defiant look at the monster. The power emanating from the Saiyan immediately attracts the attention of the giant, who was holding Tapion in his hand, but now leaves him aside to focus on the warrior who challenges him. It's Gohan who starts the fight, flying without hesitation towards the Titan before him. Hiradegarn responds to the enemy's approach by opening his mouth and spitting a curtain of flames at him, but Gohan manages to avoid the flames and reach his opponent with a flying punch that would be aimed at Hiradegarn's body, but ends up being avoided when the creature suddenly dissolves his body into smoke, leaving the Saiyan's blow to only hit his gaseous composition. Seeing the monster rebuild his body behind him, Gohan promptly turns to try kick the beast, but again only hits the smoke. While Hiradegarn surrounds him in the form of smoke, Gohan reflects on what is happening, understanding that to defeat this monster, he needs to create an opening for a definitive attack. Hiradegarn finally materializes again, grabbing Gohan with his hand in a crushing motion. Seeing that Hiradegarn has captured the enemy, Hoi exhales an evil laugh, saying that Gohan arrived full of arrogance, but now he will be torn apart by Hiradegarn's overwhelming strength. However, suddenly Gohan smiles and says that he's not the one who's going to be torn apart. In quick action, Gohan releases his energy in the form of an explosion that spreads around his body, receiving this blast directly from someone who he's holding. Hiradegarn is unable to avoid the attack and staggers away. It is at this moment, when the monster is stunned, that Gohan takes the opportunity to quickly concentrate energy in one of his hands, and then release this energy in a punching movement. The power released by Gohan's fists manifests itself in a beam of energy that passes through Hiradegarn's body, then causing a huge explosion that makes that titanic, demonic being disappear from existence, with his colossal body being reduced to nothing. After seeing his pet monster being completely obliterated like that, Hoi is left unresponsive, staring with wide eyes and mouth at what just happened. It cannot be. Hiradegarn is. But Hoi doesn't even have time to despair, as Gohan appears before him with a very serious expression, asking in a threatening tone of voice if he will give up or intend to continue resisting. Looking into Gohan's eyes, Hoi realizes his seriousness and can feel that this man will eliminate him without mercy if he doesn't give up, just like he did with Hiradegarn. Hoi makes a decision for his life, saying he surrenders. After seeing all this, Gogeta is stunned. Wow, that was amazing! That monster was extremely powerful, but even so, Gohan defeated him very quickly. The Gohan in my reality wouldn't even dream of defeating a monster like that, even using his most powerful transformation. And that's not all. It was clear to me that he didn't come close to using his full power. While listening to Gogeta make all these observations, Vegito lets a smile of pride expand more and more on his face. At the end, he boasts saying, "Well, I couldn't expect anything less from my son." When he hears this, Gogeta is in shock. "What? Your son?" He screams, perplexed. Isn't that Gohan that exists in your reality your son?" Vegito asks, surprised. Gogeta says no, saying that the Gohan he knows is Goku's son. Vegito laughs at this and says that it seems like there are really many differences between their realities, but he says that they can talk about it later, and that now they should go talk to Gohan. Gohan had now landed in the city. He trapped Hoi in an energy dome and talks to Tapion and Minoshia. Tapion thanks Gohan very much, saying that if it weren't for him, Minoshia would be dead. And so would he. Minoshia adds that Gohan not only saved them, but also the entire planet, Konats, and its people. Gohan tells them that it was nothing. He just did his duty as an agent of the Galactic Patrol. Gohan looks up at the skies and sees Vegito and Gogeta watching him. He then says goodbye to Tapion and Minoshia, saying that he prefers to go before people start to gather there to thank him. Gohan arrives at Vegito and Gogeta carrying Hoi's prison dome. "Daddy," he meets Vegito when he reaches there. "That's my son." Vegito greets Gohan full of pride, but then he scolds him. "You did very well in the fight, but you could have eliminated that little worm too," he says, referring to Hoi. Hoi gets really scared when he hears this. Gohan responds to his father by saying the following: "Well, there is no reason to kill people who surrender. That is the conduct of the Galactic Patrol. Of course, if he hadn't surrendered, I would have had to eliminate him." After saying this, Gohan is suddenly overcome with great sadness, and Vegito asks what happened. Gohan tells him that not long ago, an alternative version of his mother Chi-Chi appeared. But this Chi-Chi was different. She was a very bad person, as well as very powerful. She didn't want to surrender, so he was forced to kill her. Even though he knew it wasn't his real mother, doing so was very hard. Vegito tells Gohan that he has to be prepared for these things, and that no matter who he sees, he cannot hesitate, or else he could end up dead. He must eliminate any enemy that poses a danger to his life, no matter who this person looks like. Gohan nods his head, signaling that he understands, although it doesn't make him feel better. But soon after, Gohan's attention ends up turning to Gogeta, who he observes for a while. He asks his father who this man is, and asks why Gogeta has a key that somewhat resembles his. Vegito says it's a slightly complicated story. At that moment, Gohan receives a call on a communication device. The call comes from a voice that Gogeta recognizes very well: Jako. "Agent Gohan, bring the prisoner here at once," Jako commands. "Of course, Commander Jako," Gohan responds. "Commander Jako?" Gogeta repeats the words in disbelief. Gohan says he should go, and invites them to come along. With nothing better to do at that moment, the two agree. Everyone disappears from there using teleportation. Vegito and Gogeta use the teleportation technique, while Gohan does this thanks to a technological device from the Galactic Patrol. But what they didn't know was that they were being watched. The angel Vod, who until now was invisible, reveals his presence. "Oh, so Vegito really has a weakness." Vod comments with a smile and tone of voice full of mischief. He's talking about this to Vados, who was also invisible, and then reveals herself. Vados says that after she fought Vegito, she noticed a very powerful key similar to his in the universe, and that's how she found this man called Gohan, who is his son. Vados had told Vod before that she found Vegito's weakness, something that could help defeat him. So now she completes this reasoning by explaining to Vod that as long as Vegito fights with his body and mind in balance, he will be able to keep the powers of Ultra Instinct and Hakai active with excellence, and this way it will be much more difficult to defeat him. But if he goes through a major emotional balance, such as losing a son, his abilities will conflict, and then his defeat will be simpler. Vod agrees with her and says that now that he knows this, he will soon have Vegito's head in his hands, and will make him pay for what he did to her and the angel's pride. After Gogeta, Gohan, and Vegito leave planet Konats, they go to the Galactic Patrol base. As soon as he arrives, Gohan leaves Hoi in the care of some patrolmen, and then heads to Commander Jaco's room. There they meet the commander, who is sitting in a throne-like chair in the middle of several monitors. As soon as he takes a look at this Jako, Gogeta realizes that he is very different from the one Goku and Vegeta know in his home reality. Unlike the Jako in his reality, this one seems much more serious and deserving of respect. Gogeta asks why Jako is surrounded by so many screens. Using his perfect vision, Commander Jako is able to monitor dozens of missions at once. Vegito explains, he's a somewhat annoying and bossy commander, but I can't deny that he's very conscientious about his work. Gohan reports to the commander saying that the problem on planet Konats has been resolved. However, instead of praising him, Jako scolds Gohan, saying that when he was temporarily crushed by Hirudegarn, his communicator ended up having an interference problem. Gohan apologizes for that and says he thought that attack wouldn't cause any problems. Jako says he doesn't care about excuses, and says that a communicator like this, which works throughout this great universe, is very expensive. He says that Gohan will have to pay for this loss. At that moment, Gohan's mouth drops open, saying that he's going to have to work hard to pay for this. He asks the patrol to pay at least half the amount. Commander Jako, however, is not accepting negotiations, and gives his final word, saying that Gohan will have to pay, and that's the end of the story. Gohan realizes that he's not going to change the commander's mind, so he just lowers his head and agrees. Then he introduces Gogeta to Jako, despite him barely knowing Gogeta himself. Jako says that he doesn't have time to meet new people, and that as long as Gogeta came to help, there's enough for him to know. After this unfriendly introduction, Gogeta concludes that in this dimension, Jako may seem more respectable, but he is an asshole. Jako tells Gohan to go get a new communicator and go back to work. According to him, it's a more developed version that probably won't have the same problem that the communicator he's using just had. Gohan obeys the commander and goes to get the new equipment, followed by Vegito and Gogeta. As they talk through the corridors of the base, Gogeta asks what their relationship is with the Galactic Patrol, and asks if Vegito is also an agent of the patrol. Vegito explains that he is not an agent, just Gohan. He says that the Galactic Patrol, which acts as a kind of universal police, ended up getting involved in the problem of dimensions, since it is a problem that affects the entire universe. Because of this, Vegito and the patrol ended up becoming allies. He explains that throughout the universe there are hundreds or sometimes even thousands of occurrences per day involving dimensional imbalances. The Galactic Patrol's dimensional radars can not only detect occurrences, but also measure the power level of the invaders. Depending on the attacker's power level, they already know which patrolman to send. The radar that Vegito uses only detects invaders who have a very high power level, so he didn't waste time on weak enemies. This last occurrence involving the wizard and the demon would be a case for someone like him, but as he doesn't have very accurate communication with the patrol, Gohan ended up being sent. Gohan adds to the explanation by saying that he is what they call the first ranger, that is, the best agent in the Galactic Patrol. Being the best agent, he also receives the most serious cases, so every now and then he ends up bumping into Vegito. That's a good thing, since he doesn't normally see his father much. Gogeta can understand the situation well, but he still remains curious about this dimensional radar. He comments that it is a very interesting object and is very similar to something that is used in his reality. Then he asks who created this radar. At that moment they arrive at the door of a room, and then Vegito says that he is going to meet this person. When the door of the room opens, they see a huge room full of technological artifacts, and the person in the center of this room is Bulma. Does Bulma work with the patrol too? Gogeta is surprised, although he shouldn't be at this point, since this dimension is full of surprises. Gohan says that Miss Bulma is the head of the Galactic Patrol's technology department, and she and her assistant are mainly responsible for the super advanced equipment they use. Assistant? Gogeta asks. At that moment, a teenage girl comes out from behind one of the equipment, who he immediately recognizes as Bulla. "Daddy, are you here?" Bulla says while looking at Vegito. "What?" Gogeta screams, completely shocked by what he just heard. "Are you Bulla's father too?" Vegito doesn't seem to understand Gogeta's surprise, and asks what's wrong with that. Gogeta says the problem is very obvious. If he is Gohan and Bulla's father, that means he has two wives. Vegito, still not understanding Gogeta's shock, justifies. "Well, I am made up of two men, so it is natural that I got involved with two women, since their preferences are different." Vegito says these things with a naturalness that leaves Gogeta completely stunned, to the point where he can't even think of a response. In the end, he gives in and says he prefers not to discuss it. Gohan says that his half-sister Bulla managed to inherit Vegito's battle talent and power, and also Bulma's intelligence. He says very proudly that his sister has incredible potential and is an excellent fighter, but she prefers the technological field to the battlefield. Just by taking a look at Bulla, Gogeta can already see that she really has great potential, and even though she apparently doesn't focus most of her time on fighting, she is a considerably powerful girl. Then he takes a look at Bulma, realizing that she is much smarter than Bulma from his dimension. Gogeta reflects on this for a moment and realizes that the difference between realities doesn't seem to be just in a person's scale of power. Other things like intelligence can also be very different. When Bulma asks what they were doing there, Gohan explains the situation and asks for a new communicator. While Bulla goes to get him one, Vegito takes the opportunity to explain more about who Gogeta is. And of course everyone is very curious about the whole situation. After Bulla brings Gohan a new communicator, they don't have much more time to talk, as their dimensional radars start to beep. When they look at the radars, they realize that 3 high-level incidents appeared at once. "Wow, 3 at once? This doesn't happen all the time," Gohan comments. Gogeta and Vegito decide to deal with the most dangerous occurrences, and tells Gohan to take care of the least dangerous one. After everyone agrees on what to do, the 3 leave. Gogeta teleports to a region of space where an entire solar system has just disappeared. Feeling the atmosphere of that place, he thinks, a very powerful energy seems to have been purposely emanated from here. It's like someone is trying to get our attention. At that moment, a laser comes from behind, but Gogeta easily dodges it. When he looks in the direction from which the attack came, he sees a very peculiar figure, someone who has the appearance of Frieza's race, and at the same time of a Namekian. No, it's not a simple Namekian, and someone who looks like Frieza. It's Piccolo himself, and Frieza himself fused together. What the hell did such a bizarre thing come from? Gogeta is completely disgusted by that sight. That bizarre being smiles at him, saying that he will make Gogeta feel true terror. "The only terror I feel is looking at your ugly face," the Saiyan responds. Vegito teleports to a planet that, to his surprise, is empty. He searches for a moment for the being that caught the radar's attention, until he notices the presence of someone behind him. When Vegito turns around to see who it is, he is stunned, realizing that the enemy is himself. What does that mean? Is it a version of me from another dimension? He wonders, but after looking a little better, he ponders. No, this guy is different. It's like he's not even alive. Is it a clone then? The clone wastes no time in attacking, firing a wave of energy that the original Vegito easily dodges, going to the sky. Despite having easily dodged this attack, Vegito recognizes it as having the capacity to hurt him, which means that this clone is not weak. Vegito's clone immediately goes after him in the sky, and so the two begin an exchange of frantic blows at such incredible speed that the only evidence that this is happening are the several impact waves resulting from the great force with which they strike. The exchange of physical blows ends when one Vegito fires a torrential wave of energy, which at the same time is responded to in the same way by the other Vegito. The meeting of these two powerful energies is an explosion of monstrous proportions. In these brief moments of combat, Vegito was already able to understand that this enemy is not just any copy. He is someone who can actually fight at his level. Through the vacuum of space, two combatants move at stratospheric speeds as their bodies collide with extraordinary violence, with each collision between them culminating in an explosive impact that makes regions at greater distances shudder. After another of several collisions, they end up arriving on an uninhabited planet. The mysterious guy, even without needing to change his energy, fires a powerful Makan Kosapo at Gogeta, who manages to dodge it, letting the attack leave that planet and go far beyond. The mysterious enemy's next attack comes right after, a powerful supernova with extraordinary power. Gogeta concentrates an equally powerful Kamehameha, launching it against the opponent's attack, causing both techniques to disappear in a majestic explosion. After having two such powerful attacks thwarted, one after the other, the mysterious warrior decides to stop for a moment. He comments that the feeling he has is what Gogeta seems to predict his attacks, and if he already knew them. Gogeta confirms but says that he uses these attacks much better than the people he knows. It was incredible that you used a Makan Kosapo of that level, concentrating energy almost instantly. You used this ability much better than the Piccolo I know, and also the power of the globe of energy was incredible, far superior to anything the Frieza from my reality could do. But that's not all. You're a really powerful guy, even having enough power to hurt my body, at least while I don't transform. You are certainly the result of a fusion between a Piccolo and a Frieza, much more powerful than the ones I know. The enemy says, "At first I thought I would finish you off in a surprise attack, but that didn't happen. And it looks like this fight will last a little longer. In that case, I think I'd better introduce myself. My name is Fricolo." After hearing that name, Gogeta comments, "It's a name as ugly as your appearance. I think it suits you a lot." Gogeta prepares to fight, and so does the creature called Fricolo. Gohan arrives at the location of his mission, and what he finds is a giant ogre on an uninhabited planet. However, when Gohan takes a look at the ogre, he notices something strange. Noticing that it was nothing more than a hologram, Gohan says out loud, "A cheap illusion like that could never fool me. Whoever is responsible for this, reveal yourself at once." And indeed, the person responsible reveals himself, emitting a devilish laugh. "You noticed my illusion in an instant, which proves your skill and power. You are definitely Vegito's son." It's Vod who says this, who looks at Gohan with a sadistic look. "I already understand everything," Gohan says, after thinking for a few seconds. "You created this illusory creature while also releasing an artificial power to fool the Galactic Patrol's dimensional radar. If you had released your real power, the radar would detect a much greater power. So the one who would come would be my father, or that man called Gogeta. But instead you wanted me to come here, while you probably faked those two cases to keep them busy. Am I right?" Vod congratulates Gohan, saying that he is very smart to notice this so quickly. "Enough with this nonsense, and tell me what you want with me," the Saiyan demands to know. Vod then responds, "Simple. I will completely tear you apart, and bring your father the deepest suffering." As he stares at the enemy before him, Gohan begins to think, "This is clearly a trap to end me and harm my father. I would be an idiot if I followed this bastard's plan. The best thing I can do now is get out of here and get together with the others to think of a strategy." But suddenly, at a speed that Gohan can't keep up with, Vod moves in front of him. The Saiyan, being caught completely off guard by this movement, gets scared and tries to retreat. But the angel doesn't allow it, magically summoning his staff and using it to swallow Gohan with a powerful suction force that takes him inside the staff. From one moment to the next, Gohan finds himself in a completely different place and recognizes that he is now in another dimension. Damn! The teleportation technology that we patrollers have doesn't work for teleportation, so advanced as to change dimensions. I'm really stuck here. It doesn't take long for the owner of that dimension to appear. "What do you think of this, son of Vegito? Trapped like a rat." Vod appears while making fun of Gohan. Vegito is completely engaged in combat against his clone, exchanging countless punches against him. Finding a gap in the clone's attacks, Vegito manages to land a blow that knocks him away, and then fires a sphere of white energy that travels at full speed against the clone, and disappears in a gigantic explosion in the sky. Thinking he got the attack right, Vegito smiles, but then his smile fades when he realizes that the clone escaped that energy blast and already has a giant globe of power formed. The globe of power is thrown at Vegito, who has to hold back the attack with his hands, but is carried to the ground of the planet, and his foot is increasingly buried in the ground as the strength of the globe of energy stands out in front of his. However, Vegito is determined not to let a mere clone overwhelm him. He doubles his efforts, managing to overcome the strength of that energy and push out that massive amount of power. Vegito then launches the attack back against his clone, who, in order not to be hit by his own power, destroys it with a Hakai, making that massive ball of energy disappear completely. Despite all the effort he had to make, Vegito still manages to put a smile on his face. He recognizes that this clone has the same power as him in base form, and is curious to know what the limit of this copy is. However, Vegito notices that Gohan's ki has disappeared from the universe, and he wonders worriedly what happened. But he doesn't have time to think about it, as the clone immediately comes towards him to continue the fight. Not distinguishing his anxiety about killing, Vod tells Gohan to prepare to suffer the most abominable pain. While transforming into ultimate form, Gohan takes his combat stance and challenges the angel to try. "Do you think you can deal with me, kid?" Vod shouts after a long laugh. "I see your power, and I know it is nothing compared to that of an angel." Ignoring the enemy's words, Gohan goes on the attack. The exchange of blows between the two is impressive, with both revealing a high degree of strength, speed, and skill. Despite this, Vod's advantage is clear, with the angel easily avoiding the Saiyan's attacks. "You're good, boy," the evil angel says, but still a worm compared to an angel. Unable to contain the anxiety in his heart, Vod warns his opponent, "I have no time to waste. It's time to begin the massacre." Vod launches a very powerful attack. However, Gohan holds his hand. "What?" he exclaims in disbelief. Gohan smiles. "Looks like you made a small miscalculation, Angel." Gohan begins to scream, his voice echoing through the place like powerful thunder. His ki, even more powerful, begins to be released in a way that creates a powerful current of air. After that, the aura of energy rises, pushing Vod away, who remains incredulous at what he is feeling. This boy, what power is he hiding? Gohan's scream intensifies, causing intense vibrations around him, at the same time that his eyes seem to spin like a vortex, and his hair grows, taking on a whitish color. Finally, Gohan explodes his power, creating powerful currents of air and impact as he reveals his transformation. "Come, Angel," the hybrid Saiyan says. "Let's see who will feel true despair." Vod's private dimension trembles, while the angel himself also lets some involuntary tremors pass through his body. The person responsible for this is Gohan, who releases his energy with great intensity while showing his beast form. His power is extraordinary, causing even that particular dimension of an angel to suffer several anomalies in its ecosystem thanks to the Saiyan's bestial power. "I can't believe this bastard had so much power," the evil angel thinks, letting his surprise clearly appear on his face. Even knowing that Gohan is the son of the mighty Vegito, Vod had no idea that someone so young could have such high power. He clearly shows his astonishment through his expressions as he gapes at Gohan. Gohan stares at the enemy, looking straight into his eyes. The Saiyan warrior's eyes demonstrate seriousness, concentration, and above all, confidence in his victory. He finally calls his opponent to his point. "Come on, Angel, let's see who will feel true despair." Vod, who was previously cornered by Surprise, now gets very angry and tells Gohan that despite having surprised him with its power, it's better not to think that he already won just because of that. The evil angel moves toward the Saiyan with a powerful start, leaving a large trail of destruction across the ground whenever he passes due to the incredible power with which he moves. Gohan does no less than that, also going against his enemy, destroying the ground wherever he goes. The two, surrounded by a powerful aura of ki, go at each other with overwhelming force. When the collision happens, an explosion of energy devastates a large region of that dimension, causing destruction that reaches a radius of countless kilometers away. Vod and Gohan remain at the center of this entire zone of destruction. One tries to overcome the other's power in a contest of strength, while they exude a powerful energy that spreads throughout the surroundings. This boy is very strong. It doesn't even compare to how he was months ago. Vod recognizes feeling all the strength that Gohan has recently acquired with his transformation. But then the angel gets angry and shouts at the Saiyan, "You brat, don't think you're going to pressure me." Vod increases the intensity of his ki. Gohan does the same in response. An explosion even bigger than the first happens. The two then end the contest of strength by starting to rise toward the sky in spiral movements, as if they were a tornado of power. As soon as they ascend to the skies, the two exchange powerful blows, filling the sky of that dimension with several explosions of impact and energy. To his complete shock, Vod is being pressured by Gohan, who delivers very powerful and incessant blows to him. As he is increasingly pressured by the Saiyan, Vod thinks, In addition to having great speed, strength, and good fighting techniques, this bastard is also very insistent. Gohan, while continuing to attack the angel, says, "You know, because my father has this ability, I know some things about Ultra Instinct. I know that this ability grants the user a very high attack, defense, and dodging capacity. But I also know that in exchange for this, the user must keep their mind and body in calm and harmony. But that doesn't seem to be the case with you. You seem like a very stressed guy. Bod doesn't like those insinuations. Stop beating around the bush and say what you want to say." Gohan then explains better what he means. "What I mean is that you probably have a very unrefined Ultra Instinct compared to the other angels. That's because you're completely unbalanced. My father's Ultra Instinct is so much better than yours. You wouldn't stand a chance against him." "You insolent brat." Vod interrupts Gohan's speech in an outburst as he suddenly attempts a rage-filled attack. But Gohan predicts his movement and lands a precise blow on the angel, delivering a very powerful kick to his abdomen. A blow strong enough to make Vod flinch in pain. Then Gohan smiles as he thinks, "I already know how to beat this guy." While the son fights in Vod's dimension, the father fights in an uninhabited planet. Vegito and his clone cross the skies of that planet while competing with intense blows, firing thousands of punches and kicks per second, as well as several energy attacks that create a true show of lights and explosions across the sky. The pressure exerted on the planet is great, to the point that the entire ground is full of craters and cracks, indicating that it won't be long before the entire planet gives way and is completely destroyed. The more he fights against his clone, the more the real Vegito realizes that the clone's movements are very similar to his own, which leaves him intrigued and thoughtful. "His movements are exactly like mine. How could such a perfect copy of me have been created?" Vegito's distraction costs him a blow, which when it hits him, launches him against a block of stone, which is destroyed by the force of the fall. But Vegito doesn't stay buried in the rocks for long, as he destroys everything around him with his energy. Despite everything, he smiles and says that this clone is indeed a challenging opponent, which makes everything much more fun. But Vegito's smile fades, and his expression takes on a more serious tone when he begins to think about his son, Gohan, whose ki disappeared from this reality very suddenly. He wonders what's behind this, when he says to his clone, while starting to raise his ki, "Look, it's fun to fight someone who mirrors me, but unfortunately, I don't have much time right now. I'm going to finish you off quickly and find out what's going on." The power of destruction is released by Vegito in the form of a tenebrous aura of energy. Then a completely opposite energy appears, transmitting all the calm and serenity of Ultra Instinct. Now balancing the powers of Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct, Vegito tells his clone that this fight is over. Vegito fires a majestic wave of power at his copy, who immediately retaliates with a powerful wave of energy. However, the wave of power fired by the clone is nothing compared to the destructive power of the original Vegito, who consumes his clone's attacks with ease and continues heading towards him. When the copy is achieved by Vegito's energy, a titanic explosion happens in the sky, reverberating throughout that planet and taking its entire structure to the limit. Vegito smiles, confident of his victory after the attack. However, his smile is shattered when he contemplates his perfectly alive clone. And that's not all. Now he also uses the same transformation as Vegito, balancing the power of Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego. "It cannot be. This bastard can transform like me too?" Vegito sighs with impatience. Gogeta and Fricolo are in the middle of a very curious exchange of blows. The two keep a reasonably large distance from each other, but they still exchange punches. They do this by stretching their arms, throwing distance punches at each other that are as strong as they are fast. Their arms look like simple figures, but they carry such great power that they cause several impact explosions to spread around them, creating several whirlpools and earthquakes on the planet they are on. Although the exchange of blows seems balanced, the truth is that Fricolo is at a total disadvantage. Being under a lot of pressure from Gogeta, and no longer able to maintain this exchange of punches, he decides to change his strategy and launch a large energy attack against Gogeta. However, Gogeta escapes the energy attack with a teleportation, and stopping above Fricolo, hits a top-down kick that sends him crashing to the ground with great violence. Fricolo ends up falling upside down on the ground with his head sticking into the ground and his body hanging like a nail. Gogeta lands next to him and, realizing that the enemy is completely inert, wonders if he exaggerated. But suddenly, Fricolo's head comes out from under the ground behind Gogeta, firing a ki blast from his mouth. Gogeta immediately notices and dodges. Then he makes a cutting movement with his hand horizontally in the air, and the pressure of this movement hits Fricolo's outstretched neck, cutting off his head. But before Fricolo's head even hits the ground, an entire body appears beneath it. Good regeneration, the Saiyan praises while he can't hide his smile of amusement. "You did not see anything. The opponent responds, also smiling. Fricolo concentrates his energy, causing several anomalies on that planet. Then his power manifests itself in an incredible pillar of energy, an incredibly dense energy which shows a high degree of power. Now Fricolo shows a transformation that has multiplied his power to extraordinary levels. He announces the name of this form, shouting, proud of his colossal power, "Contemplate the beige Fricolo." But Gogeta doesn't see it with excitement, but rather disappointment. Dude, beige? I can't think of a color more tacky than this. It seems like the color palette for transformations is getting really limited now. The Saiyan complains. You bastard. What matters is my power. Color is the least important thing. The beige warrior screams. Really? So why the color define the transformation name? Gogeta retorts. Furious, Fricolo prepares to attack, saying he won't waste time with this ridiculous discussion. Gohan and Vod make that entire dimension shake with their blows, generating countless waves of impact around them at the same time that they are surrounded by intense electrical blasts, resulting from the collision of their attacks, highly energized by enormous power. The two release a large amount of ki as they fight, making the entire atmosphere of that place extremely dense. They cover the skies and the ground while flying at incredible speed, leaving several energy explosions in their wake. Gohan fights with determination, letting all the ferocity of his bestial form overflow through his attacks. Vod, on the other hand, despite being pressured, tries not to back down, determined not to let the Saiyan brats stand out against him. There's no way I'm being pressured by this worm. I will not allow that to happen, the angel thinks. While continuing to pressure his enemy, Gohan says, "You seem like a very proud guy, and it must be a tragedy for someone like you to be pressured like that by someone like me, right? This must really hinder you in keeping your Ultra Instinct working well." Vod shouts, telling Gohan to shut up, and tries an attack again. But he's hit again with an attack that is as precise as it is strong, which causes the angel great pain. With the enemy completely stunned by his last move, Gohan sees an opportunity, concentrating a large amount of his energy. He shouts, Kamehameha! A gigantic wave of power completely engulfs Vod. However, suddenly all this energy is dispersed when a ki explosion spreads across that place. It's the Angel's ki, which is more powerful and intense than ever. What is that? Gohan exclaims in shock. Vod's power is so intense that it burns his own skin, and combined with the furious expression on his face, it gives the Angel a demonic and frightening appearance. You bastard. Who do you think you're dealing with? I am Vod, the 15th son of Shinken, and I will not be defeated by a brat. Gohan immediately notices that Vod's power has increased enormously. It cannot be. I didn't imagine this guy could increase his power so much. With an incomparably greater speed, Vod advances against Gohan in a way that even in his bestial form, the Saiyan cannot react, grabbing him by the face and throwing him headfirst against the ground in a way that Gohan completely cracks, even the extremely rigid ground, rigid from that angel's dimension. Then Vod throws Gohan away, leaving the Saiyan to travel a great distance while creating a line of destruction on the ground. After that, Vod rises to the sky and forms a small sphere of energy in his hand that he launches against the area where Gohan stopped. And even that small sphere, where it hits the ground, sets off a gigantic explosion. But at the last moment, Gohan managed to escape thanks to the Galactic Patrol's teleportation device, instantly arriving in front of Vod with his fist covered in power and throwing a punch with all his strength against the Angel. However, to the Saiyan's misfortune, Vod doesn't even move, making it seem like a simple stone hit a large, impassable mountain. It cannot be! Gohan despairs. Gogeta and Fricolo's fight resumes in full swing. Now using his beige form, Fricolo achieved an absurd increase in strength, speed, resistance, and raw power, taking the fight against Gogeta to a much higher level. Despite the notable increase in his opponent's power, Gogeta remains on par with him, even without transforming. This greatly frustrates Fricolo, who really thought he would take the reins of that battle after transforming. In an attempt to scare Gogeta, Fricolo fires an energy attack at him that contains completely extraordinary power. However, Gogeta responds with an equally powerful attack. The clash of these two attacks results in a gigantic explosion of power, which completely destroys the planet they are on. But the destruction of a mere planet for these beings of colossal power is nothing. Gogeta and Fricolo engage in frantic movement, traveling astronomical distances through space while clashing their bodies with a titanic force that causes gigantic shockwaves that shake the structure of multiple solar systems. Cosmic disasters occur as the fight unfolds. Stars go into atomic imbalance and explode.
Planets are affected by shockwaves and experience fatal natural disasters, and even dimensional barriers weaken. The collisions against Gogeta's body are not good for Fricolo's body, which is severely injured. But using Piccolo's regenerative abilities, he can always regenerate his external and internal injuries, and fueled by Frieza's bloodlust, he continues to attack with voracious determination. Gogeta hits Fricolo with a very powerful wave of energy, which launches him a galaxy away, only stopping when he collides with a very resistant planet. After receiving this attack, Fricolo becomes extremely angry, and when Gogeta arrives at him with a teleport, he says that the Saiyan is a bastard. Fricolo raises his hand to form a gigantic supernova, and after launching this attack against Gogeta, he warns, this attack has enough power to destroy an entire ordinary universe. Fricolo states, vain of his own power. However, Gogeta responds unimpressed. Sorry, but for me it's still not a big deal. Forming a small amount of energy of destruction in his hand, Gogeta launches it against Fricolo's attack, who completely disappears from existence in the same second. It cannot be. Fricolo is amazed. Even though Vod and Gohan are in another dimension, Gogeta feels the gigantic energy of the angel, who has just greatly increased his power, and become a little worried. Vegito continues the battle against his clone, which becomes increasingly intense. He's very impressed with the power of his copy and wonders how someone managed to copy his power like that, until finally Vegito seems to reason and find an answer. At that moment, Vegito moves away from his clone, and after concentrating, he fires an energy attack in a direction that doesn't seem to have anything, but his energy is defended by someone who was invisible there. The person who was hiding, watching everything, was Vados, who, while revealing herself, asks Vegito how he discovered her. Vegito says that now he stops to think about it. The level of power this clone is using is very similar to the level of power he used in the fight against her, and since he knows that angels have incredible abilities, he imagined that Vados might be able to simulate his power in a clone. However, she would have to be close by to be able to manipulate such a powerful puppet. After Vegito explains this, Vados lets out a smile and says that he is really very smart. She shows her staff and says, after you destroyed my old staff, my father created a new one for me. Using the magical powers of the staff, I managed to transfer my own energy to this clone, but making it look like your energy. Vegito tells her that, as she herself was unable to overcome the level of power he used in the other fight, this clone is not as strong as he was in that fight. So if there is no prospect of victory for her now, Vegito asks what Vados' objective is with all of this. If I revealed my plans like that, it wouldn't be any fun, would it? Suddenly, Gogeta's voice calls out to Vegito inside his mind. Hey, Vegito, Gohan is in trouble, he says. Vegito asks how Gogeta knows this, and he explains that it's been a while since he was able to sense where Gohan had gone, and that he had fallen into an angel's trap. However, he wasn't that worried because he had sensed in Gohan the necessary potential to face the angel. But now this angel has increased his power a lot, and Gohan is in trouble. Vegito tells Gogeta that he should have said all this before. After talking to Gogeta, Vegito tells Vados that he already knows what she's planning, and says that this won't work, and that they won't be able to catch Gohan. Vados is surprised that he discovered everything so suddenly, and asks him how he did it. I don't have time to chatter with you. I'm going to destroy both you and this damn copy at once, and then I'm going to help Gohan. Vados laughs when Vegito says this, and retorts saying that despite not having his full power, his clone will not be defeated that easily. But this time it's Vegito who has the last laugh, and responds by saying that all he needs to do is increase his power even more. At that moment, Vegito begins to concentrate his energy, and the power that begins to leave his body is completely frightening. Vados looks at him in disbelief, recognizing that the power he is releasing now is much greater than what he used in the fight against her. How could you have become so much stronger in such a short time? She asks, her voice filled with fear. The answer to that is very simple, Vegito says, smiling with extreme pride in himself. My power hasn't grown since her fight. I simply didn't use my full strength against you at that time. Vados receives this response as she feels her entire body freeze from the inside, making it seem like even her heart has stopped beating. The only thing she can do is, in an act of despair, order the clone to attack. But when the clone approaches Vegito, he is quickly eliminated with a very powerful shot of power from the Saiyan, which easily makes his copy disappear completely. It cannot be! How was he destroyed so easily? Vados asks, stuttering. Now looking at her, Vegito responds, the same way you will be in a few seconds. But Vados doesn't wait for the promise to be fulfilled. And then with her voice full of bitterness, she promises, this isn't over yet, Vegito. I swear I will destroy you. After this promise, she disappears. Vegito wastes no time and immediately teleports. Damn you, Gogeta, I will destroy you. Fricolo roars, his voice bathed in fury. The reason for his fury is that even after trying so many attacks on the Saiyan, all of his attempts are frustrated in some way. Concentrating a high amount of energy in his fist, Fricolo attacks Gogeta with a punch containing all his strength. But when this blow reaches him, Gogeta surprises him by dissolving in the form of smoke, and after floating to Fricolo's back, he recovers. "What kind of skill is this?" he asks, impressed. "Well, I saw that monster use it against Gohan, and I liked it," Gogeta responds, referring to Hero de Garn when he fought Gohan. "There's another ability of his that I saw and liked." Gogeta spits a fireball at Fricolo, who starts to be set on fire and screams wildly as he writhes in pain. Even with the successful attack, Gogeta is dissatisfied. That burnt lizard smell doesn't please me at all. I'll figure it out." Gogeta quickly solves this problem, filling his lungs with air and blowing so hard that it disperses the flames that consume Fricolo. However, Gogeta exaggerates the strength of this breath, and along with the flames, it also leaves Fricolo's body his own skin. Looking at his skinless opponent, Gogeta doesn't like what he sees either. "Man, you just got uglier." He points his hand at Fricolo and then he is instantly healed. After that, Fricolo stands still for a moment, his body shaking as he feels the deepest hatred and despair. "You damn insect, how dare you humiliate me like this?" Fricolo touches his index and middle fingers to his forehead, quickly building up a very high amount of energy. Gogeta immediately recognizes the technique. "It looks like you're going to use Makan Kosapo again. Last time you managed to make a very powerful attack, even though you barely concentrated energy. I wonder what you'll be capable of now that you're accumulating power." In an attempt to provoke Gogeta, Fricolo says, "You have so much confidence in your own power, right? If you are so brave and powerful, take this attack head on. I dare you." Starting to raise his ki to increase his resistance, Gogeta decides to accept Fricolo's challenge and guarantees that he won't move. Fricolo then fires his extremely powerful Makan Kosapo. The attack hits Gogeta squarely, however, despite the extremely high amount of concentrated power, it does not cause any apparent damage to Gogeta. "It's not possible," Fricolo screams in disbelief. "The energy I just fired had enough power to pierce a body with a mass greater than half of this universe. Wow, that's equivalent to at least 9 universes from my home reality," Gogeta compares. However, for Gogeta, it is nothing, so he sarcastically comforts his opponent while boasting, "Don't be sad, that was a really powerful attack. The problem is that I'm too strong." Suddenly, they are interrupted when Vegito appears at Gogeta's side with an instant transmission. "Hey, where's Gohan?" the one who just arrived asks. "The angel took him to a particular dimension," Gogeta tells. Vegito remembers that when Whis trapped him in another dimension, Gogeta was able to return with a teleport, and so he asks if Gogeta can do something similar and take them to that dimension where Gohan is. "Of course, yes, my teleportation technique is very refined thanks to Shinken, as is my ability to sense ki. I can take us there in a jiffy." But Fricolo doesn't like that at all, and tells Gogeta not to treat him like he's trash by ignoring him like that. "Don't get involved, you worm," Vegito screams. Vegito fires a powerful shot of highly concentrated energy that, when it hits Fricolo, instantly eliminates the strange warrior, who disappears without a trace during the explosion. "Hey, I was trying to have some fun with him," Gogeta complains. "Don't be ridiculous. You could kill that bug at any time. We don't have time to waste on weaklings. Take me to Gohan at once." Gogeta sighs and then agrees. Vod lifts Gohan with just one of his arms, holding him tightly by the neck. Out of breath, Gohan struggles in a futile attempt to escape the angel's hand, who smiles with excitement as he feels the hybrid Saiyan's neck being crushed. "It's over, son of Vegito. Your death has finally arrived." At that moment, Gogeta and Vegito appear. When he sees them, Vod concludes that Vados and her servant have failed, and then curses the situation. When he takes a good look at the situation, Vegito sighs with relief and says, "Oh man, I was thinking things were out of control. It seems like you were a little overboard, my friend Gogeta." Obviously, this surprises Gogeta and also Vod. "What do you mean? He's tearing Gohan apart," Gogeta retorts. Addressing his son, Vegito says, "Gohan, did you make your father need to come here for something like that? Hurry up and destroy this angel at once." After Vegito says this, Vod and Gogeta are very surprised. And in the case of Vod, in addition to the surprise, there is great anger too. "What are you saying, Vegito? Are you suggesting that this barely out of diapers rat can defeat me?" Showing complete confidence in what he is saying, Vegito reaffirms, "Of course I do. Your power is even lower than Vados. I'm sure Gohan can defeat you." Vod doesn't believe what he's hearing and then responds, "You're just bluffing. I don't believe what you're saying. If you don't intend to intervene, fine. I will snap your son's neck and then yours." However, Vegito's confident expression doesn't change at all. And then he responds, "If you don't believe my words, then take a look at what's before you." Vod does as he says and looks at Gohan. And when he does, he notices something he hadn't noticed before. Gohan's look has completely changed. With a much more ferocious look full of bloodlust, the Saiyan looks at the angel holding him. and then an attack comes, a slashing motion that severs Vod's hand. What does that mean? The angel screams in despair as he realizes that his hand was detached from his body. Gohan, now free, emits a terrifying scream, making that dimension vibrate while causing colossal level energy to emerge from his body. What abyssal power is this? Vod screams in shock and terror as he holds the severed area of his arm and watches Gohan's form change. Now sporting a new transformation and a completely savage bestial personality, Gohan roars as he stares down his opponent with a thirst for blood. Gogeta looks at it completely impressed and says that he had never seen Gohan use a similar power. Vegito starts to tell him that once, in one of the many training sessions he and Gohan had, his son showed this power that even he couldn't believe when he saw it. Gohan has gigantic potential to gain power, and also a monstrous rage that his gentle personality has always struggled to keep under control. But when he's pushed to his limit, his consciousness can fade, and then all his primitive instincts surface and give way to this bestial face. Vegito explains. Gogeta says that he always thought that beast form was a manifestation of Gohan's fury. In the reality you come from, maybe it is, Vegito replies. But for the Gohan of this world, which is the Gohan I know, and was a progenitor of, that form is just the beginning. As his son releases an obscene amount of power at the same time as an animalistic fury, Vegito completes his speech. Now you will see Gohan's true power. Like a missile, Gohan projects his own body towards Vod in a swoop while leaving a trail of destruction in his path. Despite the shock, the angel is quick to respond, receiving Gohan with a punch while the hybrid Saiyan arrives in the same way. The collision of their fists generates an enormous impact, which destroys the entire ground around them. Despite having managed to stop Gohan's advance with his punch, Vod had to work hard to do so, which infuriates the angel. "You damn mortal, don't think you're on par with me," the angel says in a loud voice, however stuttering, indicating his uncertainty in the face of the power he has just felt collide with his fist. At the same time, Gohan and Vod disappear. A fraction of a second later, a series of flashes and waves of impact take over the place, indicating the speed and strength with which the combatants move and attack. The energy generated by the collisions of their blows gives rise to powerful electric currents that spread around, while whirlwinds also spread. Before long, a large tornado forms, surrounded by powerful electric blasts that swirl around it. From the center of this tornado come multiple impact waves, rays of light, and bursts of energy, evidence of the fierce confrontation that takes place there. Vegito and Gogeta watch everything attentively, this last one very impressed by Gohan's power. "It's incredible! This angel isn't holding back in this fight, but Gohan is still able to fight on equal terms with him." Gogeta watches. Then he asks Vegito what Gohan's training history is in this reality. Vegito says that since Gohan was very young, he trained his son to fight, and fortunately, unlike Bulla, Gohan developed a great passion for fighting. He trained hard until he became a patroller, and then trained even more to become the first patroller. Obviously, it's still a long way from happening, but I'm sure that one day this boy will surpass me. Vegito completes his speech, making his pride for his son evident in his tone. So this is the result when Gohan, in addition to having greater potential, also takes his training more seriously and lives to fight. Gogeta comments, also feeling very proud, despite this, Gohan having no parental ties to him. Suddenly, that enormous tornado is undone thanks to a monstrous impact wave that is created in its center, the result of a colossal force blown that Gohan landed on Vod. This blow pushes him away with such surreal power that it causes Vod to alter the balance of space-time, while being displaced an absurd distance by his own dimension. Even with the angel moving at an overwhelming speed thanks to his blow, Gohan moves at an even greater speed, chasing his enemy in the form of a ray of light while preparing another, even more powerful blow. The speed with which they move makes them both for a few seconds break dimensional barriers and visit other dimensions parallel to that one. Gohan ends his pursuit of the angel with a punch containing an absurd amount of force that breaks the walls of the parallel dimensions, sending the two back to Vod's dimension. Vod is sent back to the ground of his particular dimension, opening a gigantic crater at the same time that an explosion of impact, energy, and dust is generated in a large region around it. Vod lies paralyzed on the floor, blood running profusely from his mouth and nose. At that moment, the evil angel has multiple internal injuries on his body, severely punished by the bestial Saiyan's attacks. "How could I, an angel, reach this point because of a mere mortal?" Vod says to himself, choking thanks to the blood that accumulates in his throat. In the form of a beam of light, Gohan lands next to him, destroying part of the ground in the process. He stares at the angel with a voracious gaze, thirsty for his blood. "Curses! I, who have always trusted my strength and never liked resorting to magic, will need to use it now. What a humiliation!" Vod, with great difficulty, manages to raise one of his arms, and then his staff magically appears in his hand. "I will heal myself. But suddenly Gohan passes him in an instant, taking the staff from his hand. Vod despairs when his staff is taken away, but then despairs even more when the Saiyan simply throws it into the air and destroys it with an ultra-powerful energy shot. No! Vod screams, completely desperate. Vegito and Gogeta appear next to him with a teleport. Vegito gloats at his enemy. If from the beginning of the fight you had fought with the help of your magic, perhaps you would have defeated Gohan, but you couldn't stand the idea of not being able to subdue a simple mortal with your raw power, could you? It seemed like an affront to your pride to need to resort to magic tricks. After all, you are an angel, and he is just a mortal boy. Vod is deeply irritated by Vegito's words. You idiot. What do you know about an angel's pride? Nothing, Vegito admits, but I know a little something about a Saiyan's pride. And I learned that our pride should never be despised. However, it also cannot hinder us in battle. The one who fights while blinded by their own pride is a warrior destined to fail. Gohan takes flight again, this time hovering above them while preparing a Kamehameha. It looks like the final blow is coming, Gogeta warns. Gogeta and Vegito move away, and then the gigantic massive energy wave is fired at the angel, who watches his death come with great despair. You damn! How dare you! I am an angel! Vod's last scream echoes across great distances, but is drowned out by the deafening sound of the energy blast that is created. The power of Gohan's Kamehameha spreads throughout the dimension at an absurd speed, destroying the walls of that reality and eliminating the entire dimension of Vod, as well as himself. They all reappear in the exact same place where Vod kidnapped Gohan to his dimension. Gogeta and Vegito watch carefully the youngest Saiyan, whose great wild power suddenly disappears. After this, he falls unconscious, already in his base form. His ki calmed down after the big energy discharge, Vegito says. Gogeta comments that Gohan fought much better than he expected, and the fact that he managed to defeat an angel is impressive. Vegito agrees, but reminds Gogeta that Vod seemed far from being among the strongest of the angels, and he was even considerably weaker than Whis and Vados, who they faced before. Apparently, his strong personality kept Vod away from a more refined mastery of Ultra Instinct, and because of his pride, he seemed to avoid magic. In other words, this feat of Gohan's should not be repeated with the other angels. He complements his reasoning. From now on, we will keep him under surveillance and also ensure that he becomes stronger. Gogeta asks how he intends to do this, and Vegito says he already has an idea. At the base of the evil angels, Vados walks thoughtfully through the corridors. She has just witnessed Vod's defeat and death, and it disturbs her. Suddenly, she comes face to face with another angel in the hallway. This angel, like her, has a feminine appearance, but unlike Vados, she does not dress in a mannered way, but in a way to sensually display her body. You seem a little distressed, sister, the angel notes, with malice present in her voice. You're not feeling guilty about what happened, are you? Oh, what am I saying? Of course you're not. Vados gets a little irritated. Stop making insinuations and just say what you want to say, Rum, she asks impatiently. The angel called Rum does as Vados wants, speaking more directly. Do you think everyone here doesn't know that it was you who manipulated Vod into attacking that Saiyan? Between you and me, it was very mean of you to use our brother's crush on you to send him to his death. Don't talk nonsense, Rum. It was never my intention to send Vod to his death. I couldn't imagine that the Saiyan kid was so powerful and would kill him. Rum counters. Maybe not. But if you were completely sure of the safety of this plan, you would be the one attacking the boy. You only sent him because you feared for your life. I'm not going to listen to accusations from you, Vados exclaims, starting to get irritated. Besides, I've already found something better to do. And unlike you, who only knows how to complain, I'm trying to deal with the problem involving these Saiyans. Rum gets a little curious. Tell me, sister, do you have any plans in mind? She asks Vados. You will soon see, Vados says mysteriously, although the smile on her face confirms Rum's suspicion. Vados walks away, leaving his sister alone. In the world of the gods, both on the half of the planet that belongs to the Supreme Kai and on the half that belongs to the god of destruction, a great commotion takes place. The planet's waters stir, strong winds appear in the form of tornadoes and whirlpools. The skies shine with the appearance of lightning and lightning bolts, while powerful sounds of thunder echo across the great planet. In the center of the planet, a true whirlwind of energy can be seen. This is the result of Gohan's great power manifestation, who releases his energy as his hair grows and turns white. He faces Vegito, who is a few meters away, also staring at him, still in base form. Vegito comments to Gohan that his control over his power has grown a little in the last few days, and he congratulates his son for that. Vegito doesn't want to waste time, so he starts to concentrate his energy, which is released with a powerful flaming aura and electrical discharges that form around him. What do you think of this, Gohan? Do you think my Super Saiyan 2 is too much for you? In our last training, I beat you until you passed out using this transformation. Vegito asks his son in a provocative tone. Gohan remains serious, not allowing himself to be provoked. His response to Vegito is very calm and rational. The more we fight, the more I learn. I'm sure you'll have more difficulties now than the last time. Vegito likes the answer and tells Gohan that this is the spirit he wants to see. Here I come, Dad, Gohan warns. But to his surprise, it is Vegito who makes the first attack, extending one of his hands and firing a Big Bang attack at his son. Even though he was surprised, Gohan reacts quickly, reflexively kicking the energy fired at him, which is deflected into the sky and then leaves the planet. The counterattack is an energy sphere fired at Vegito, who is also quick to react by countering the shot with a blow. Vegito responds with another energetic attack, this time opening one of his hands, forming a small sphere of ki in each finger, and firing them all at Gohan, who raises his ki to form a protection around him, in which Vegito's attacks hit and explode. Gohan then lunges at his father, attempting a kick. Vegito manages to hold this kick, but he is surprised by the large amount of force concentrated in this blow. To avoid being carried or destabilized by Gohan's strength, Vegito concentrates the power of his Super Saiyan 2 even more. Only then he gains enough strength to maneuver his son's body, throw him towards the ground. After doing this, Vegito tells Gohan that his control over his own strength is certainly improving, and he is already able to channel his power much better compared to when they started these training. However, he states that his son still has a lot to improve. You are strong and skilled, Gohan, but you still have a long way to go to reach the ideal level of control of your energy. You end up releasing too much ki when you attack, and this ends up making your attacks easier to predict. However, Gohan is determined to evolve. He ascends to the skies again, reaching his father to begin a fierce exchange of blows. I'll improve more and more, Dad, I promise, says the bestial Saiyan. The battle between them reaches a new level, with their energies being released intensely, while large discharges and explosions of power fill the skies at the same time, as hundreds and thousands of impact waves per second, highlighting the incredible speed with which they fight. From a distance, Gogeta, Chamrus, and Daishinken watch everything that happens. Chamrus comments that Gohan fights well, but his control over his own power doesn't even compare to Vegito. Gogeta says that if Gohan uses the same transformation he used to defeat Vod, he could give Vegito a lot more work. Daishinken agrees but remembers that Gohan is very afraid of using that transformation, as he cannot keep his mind sane when using it, and also he cannot access that power willingly. Gogeta impatiently comments that it has been several days since the fight against Vod, and since that day, Vegito has been training Gohan whenever he can. But even so, he is not making much progress in terms of mastering that power. Daishinken, clearly much more patient than Gogeta, says that this is the kind of thing that should be done with patience. However, when Gohan finally masters that power, it will have been worth it. Gogeta says that since Gohan stopped working for the Galactic Patrol, most of the cases that would previously go to Gohan are going to him or Vegito. And since Vegito spends almost all of his time training Gohan, in the end he is the one working the most. Chamrus then asks how Gogeta has time to stay there, watching if he has all of Gohan's work, and part of Vegito's work to do. Gogeta says that luckily a replacement took Gohan's less difficult jobs. A very qualified replacement. Very qualified replacement? Chamrus repeats the words with a curious expression. Somewhere in the vast universe, a planet is attacked by an army of machines, which voraciously destroys the citizens and buildings of that people. With cannons in their hands, the robot fires at the planet's buildings and its populations, creating multiple explosions everywhere, making the entire planet look like a minefield. Soldiers from the planet's army try to defend everyone, but their weapons are useless against those machines, as the shots don't even scratch the robots, while the machines easily eliminate local warriors with their shots or physical blows. But then someone appears on the planet, and that person is Bulla. Fear not, citizens, the Galactic Patrol has arrived, she screams, filled with pride, feeling like a true superheroine. But her arrival only causes more despair in those people. The Galactic Patrol sent this skinny chick? One of the planet's inhabitants screamed. We resisted for so long, waiting for reinforcements from the patrol, and they sent this person? Another one says in agreement. Before long, everyone is screaming and crying in despair, taking away all the pride that Bulla felt just now. "Oh man, I'm totally out of respect," she says to herself. Without wasting time, one of the robots attacks Bulla. By then, to the complete surprise of the people of that planet, she advances against the robot with a jump and an ultra-powerful punch. And with that single blow, she penetrates the robot's metallic armor, which seemed impenetrable to the weapons of that planet. After being pierced by Bulla's blow, the robot's internal mechanism is seriously affected, culminating in its complete destruction in an explosion. For a while, a silence of disbelief takes over that place, but later, this silence is filled with screams of joy and celebration. "That's how I like it," Bulla says, that proud smile returning to her face. She transforms into Super Saiyan and then attacks those machines with confidence, easily destroying the robot, whether with physical attacks or energy attacks. As she does this, she receives cheers from the citizens, who place their hope for survival in that girl. But suddenly another machine comes to the place, which has a totally different appearance from the one Bulla's facing. As she takes a good look at this new enemy, she reflects, "I can feel this robot's power, but its air of superiority over others is noticeable. It's definitely much stronger than the machines I've faced so far." Unlike the other robots she was facing, this one can speak, and then says, "I am Realo, model number 1027, captain of this battle machine squadron. You undermine our mission, so you must be destroyed." Even deducing that the power of this new robot is greater than that of the others, the Saiyan patroller remains confident and says that she will tear him to pieces, as she did with the others. Realo number 1027 goes on the attack. Bulla anticipates and fires an energy attack at him before the enemy arrives. But to her surprise, the robot receives her wave of power head-on and manages to resist without major damage. He also launches an energy attack, but she quickly deflects it, letting it explode elsewhere. Realo takes advantage of the time it takes her to dodge this attack, and gets even closer to try another one. However, the girl is quick to escape the energy shot again, which only hits the ground. After that, she flies under him, leaving a blow that causes the robot to become unbalanced and fall. After knocking down the enemy, she hovers above him to launch a sequence of ki blasts at Realo, who receives the multiple shots defenseless. However, to Bulla's frustration, Realo also didn't suffer major damage from this sequence of explosion, as he protected himself with a kind of electrical energy shield, and that's why he managed to get up intact. The robot retaliates with an even more powerful and faster energy laser. Due to the speed of the attack, Bulla is unable to dodge it and must try to contain it with a Kamehameha. The dispute starts eventually, but soon the machine's advantage becomes evident, with his energy laser advancing against the patroller's ki wave. It gets to the point where Bulla starts to be consumed by the enemy's power. However, the Saiyan still has more to show. "If you think that this is all my power, you are very mistaken, you junk bot," the young warrior screamed. Summoning a large amount of ki, Bulla makes the power of her Kamehameha multiply, pushing Realo's energy back towards him and running over the robot with her power. After destroying all this energetic discharge head-on, the Realo 1027 model is completely destroyed. After all this, it is possible to see why Bulla has suddenly increased her attack power. She's now transformed into Super Saiyan 2. The citizens of that planet who were previously tense, thinking that she would be defeated by this robot, begin to scream with joy and relief. Already certain of her victory, Bulla says, now that the captain has been destroyed, taking out the others will be a breeze. She then begins to make several laps around the planet at incredible speed, destroying all the robots she sees along the way, leaving explosions and debris from the battle machine scattered everywhere. In less than an hour, the entire robot army was completely decimated. After all the robots are destroyed, Bulla prepares to return to where most of the planet's inhabitants are, to receive the applause and flattery of the people. But before she can do so, she receives a message from Commander Jako by communicator. The commander orders her to immediately return to the Galactic Patrol base. Bulla tries to insist that he let her stay there a little longer, but Jako doesn't want any small talk and tells her to come back now. Bulla uses the teleportation technology to return to the Galactic Patrol base, more specifically to the main hall, where Commando Jako remains surrounded by monitors, monitoring the patrollers' other missions. "Geez, Commander, you told me to get out of there at the best time," she protests. Jako says her job is to eliminate threats, not show off. Bulla reminds him that she is not a field agent, but from the technology area, so the least he can do is let her enjoy the good times of a mission in the field. Obviously, the commander ignores this claim and says that they have incidents in other places that are currently being attacked by these robots. Bulla sighs and says that apparently she won't be able to rest anytime soon. Jako confirms and says that the robot attacks clearly have a connection between them, and they need to find out who is behind it. Bulla asks who he thinks is behind these attacks. He says he doesn't know, but the only certainty he has is that is someone very powerful, since not just anyone could command so many machines that are so strong. In the Fortress of the Evil Angels, Bulla's exploits against the robots are seen by someone through a hologram. It seems those inconveniences from the Galactic Patrol have started to interfere with my operation, says the person watching what is being shown on the hologram. Well, I expected that sooner or later this would happen, but I was hoping it would take longer. The person watching is the angel Kari, who is sitting in a chair that is being cleaned by Moscow, who in this reality is not dressed as a god of destruction and appears to be some type of domestic robot. Kari gets up from his chair, summons his staff, and using it goes to another dimension. In the dimension that Kari goes to, there is a fortress, which he enters. Inside this fortress there is a laboratory, and in that laboratory there is a woman working. As soon as Kari arrives, he asks, 21, how is the protest progressing? The woman, whose name is Android 21, responds, My lord, the project is progressing well and will be ready soon. I'm doing my best to quickly enter all the genetic data that is being sent. Kari approaches a capsule and takes a good look at what's inside it. Approaching him, Android 12 comments, My lord, I feel you are more anxious. Kari justifies this by explaining that recently the Galactic Patrol started fighting his robots, and this is making it difficult to collect genetic data. Android 21 watches him with an attentive look. It seems to me that this is worrying you a lot, my lord. I never thought that you, an angel, could be worried about mere mortals. Kari responds by saying the following. Vados thought that way and was humiliated by Vegito. And Vod, who also underestimated mortals, was killed by that guy named Gohan. I won't make the same mistakes. When they come to me, I will have an extremely powerful ally to help me. Inside the capsule that Kari and 21 look at is the project they are working on. Kari smiles and says, When Cell Ultra is ready and fighting alongside me, no one will be able to defeat me. Days later, training in the world of the gods continues, with Gohan and Vegito engaging in increasingly intense combat. The two combatants surround that giant space, one half of which is made up of the sacred planet of the Supreme Kai, and the other half is made up of the planet of the God of Destruction. Both halves are considerably damaged due to the multiple powerful attacks they execute against each other, which end up impacting the planet. The two move in the form of flashes, leaving explosions of impact and power everywhere. At one point, one of them suffers a serious fall, going from the sky to the ground with such violence that it opens a crater on the planet. Surprisingly, the one who fell is Vegito, who is under a lot of pressure in this fight. Gohan, Beast, lands next to his father, and unlike Vegito, he doesn't show many injuries or fatigue. Vegito, who was transformed into Super Saiyan 2, returns to his base form despite everything. He's smiling and praises his son, saying that Gohan has evolved spectacularly in the last few days. Congratulations, Gohan! Your control over bestial power grew a lot, and in addition to mastering your power better, you also became stronger. A few days ago, my Super Saiyan 2 was more than enough to defeat you, but now I won't be able to pressure you with that form. Vegito concentrates his ki. The rising power of the fused warrior makes the whole world vibrate. As his hair begins to grow, electrical sparks appear around his body, and his energy reveals itself in the form of flames, even more intense than before. Vegito then shows off his Super Saiyan 3, displaying his overwhelming power that shakes the entire environment. Gohan is surprised by this and asks his father, But Dad, you don't like using this transformation because it uses a lot of energy, right? Vegito responds, Well, I don't need to worry about that here, since Shinken can restore my energy whenever I want. Right now what I want is for you to learn how to deal with every level of mine, including this one. Gohan says if that's how his father prefers, that's fine with him. From a certain distance, these two are watched by the Supreme Kai Zamasu, the god of destruction Chamras, the angel Shinken, and Gogeta. Seeing that these two were ready to increase the level of combat even further, Zamasu becomes very worried and asks, Mr. Vegito, Mr. Gohan, please don't damage the planet anymore. This is Zamasu, who is in charge of repairing the planet after each training session by Gohan and Vegito. And considering that the level of destruction only increases with each fight, he is already getting very tired of this task. But Chamras, who is on his side, says to the Supreme Kai, Zamasu, stop complaining. You can fix this mess later. At this moment, it is more important that this boy grows stronger to help fight the enemies. As he prepares to continue, Vegito tells Gohan to be ready. because using this transformation he ends up not controlling as precisely how much power he uses, so his attacks may end up being more exaggerated. Shinken tells Vegito that he can hit Gohan as much as he wants, because in the end he will continue healing the boy. This is how Vegito and Gohan are able to train so intensely and so frequently, thanks to the angel's restorative powers. Gogeta is watching everyone a little bored. Oh man, just watching is getting a little boring. Maybe I'll ask to fight a little too. He takes Vegito's dimensional radar that is kept with him and looks at the silent radar. It's been a few days since that radar beeped. Could it be that no more opponents at my level have emerged? And is the Galactic Patrol managing to deal with everything? He wonders. Maybe the Angels decided to keep a low profile after Vados' defeat. Or they're planning something. On a gigantic planet in this titanic universe, a very fierce battle takes place. In the center of this planet there is a large base, and close to this base a very peculiar combat is happening, where a veritable army of robots is being devastated by a single person. The person responsible for this annihilation of machines is Bulla, who transformed into Super Saiyan 2, fights hundreds of enemies at once. The robots attack the Saiyan in all possible ways, from physical blows to different types of shots. But she manages to escape or resist all attacks as she retaliates with very strong physical blows or powerful energy blasts that destroy the robots. In addition to common battle machines, she also faces Realo model robots, but with the power of Super Saiyan 2, she can also destroy these opponents with some ease, although this requires more energy in her attacks. In the midst of the veritable mass execution of robots that she promotes, Bulla looks at the base from which they're all coming, the heart of the enemy. She shouts with determination toward the enemy base, declaring that they can send as many as they want. She will destroy them. Inside the base, in the control room, a robot very different from the others leads this army. His expression watching this massacre is not good at all. Suddenly, the angel, Kari, appears before him through a magical hologram. Kari is in his fortress watching everything from his throne, with Android 21 by his side. General Realo, what is the situation? The angel asks. The machine called General Realo is surprised by the angel's call, and is noticeably filled with fear. Despite fearing the angel's reaction, Realo reports the situation, explaining that all their bases throughout the universe have either been attacked or are completely under attack by the Galactic Patrol, and that their armies are almost completely destroyed. At that moment, the main base is being attacked by the Saiyan girl who has destroyed so many of their robots in recent times. Kari is furious and reprimands his servant. You idiot! You were raised to be the general of my troops. Use all the power given to you, and at least honor us by destroying this girl. Realo lowers his head. Yes, sir. He responds, embarrassed. Bulla continues to eliminate combat robots by the dozens when, suddenly, they are all stopping their attack, which leaves her a little surprised and suspicious. General Realo leaves the main base, and it doesn't take long to reach her. He stares at the young warrior with great irritation. So, you're the Saiyan patroller who has been eliminating my troops. Seeing you up close, I realize how young you are. I can't believe a brat like you did all this damage to our army. Bulla feels very proud when hearing this, as she has just discovered that she is becoming famous. Not sharing her excitement, the robot presents himself with a sudden expression. I am General Realo, commander of the armies you have been destroying. As she displays the fiery electric aura of her Super Saiyan 2, Bulla says, So if I destroy you, the attacks will stop, right? You can try, Realo responds. General Realo starts at a high level, firing an extremely powerful blast of energy at Bulla, who responds with nothing less. The powers of the two clash, culminating in a gigantic explosion whose shockwave destroys all the battle machines and Realo models scattered around, putting an end to that entire robotic army with a single explosion. After such a powerful explosion resulting from the clash of her and Realo's power, Bulla realizes how powerful this robot is, and that his power is incomparable to that of other machines. Bulla understands that this fight will not be easy. General Realo advances against Bulla with everything he has, and the two begin a fierce fight, filling the entire place with hundreds of impact waves and explosions. The result of the physical and energy attacks they launch against each other. Bulla manages to take the advantage for a moment, landing a series of blows on Realo, who reacts by surprising Bulla by throwing his hand towards her. Bulla is hit squarely by General Realo's hand, which hits her hard and destabilizes the girl. After that, the same hand, guided by Realo, returns and hits her again, carrying her across the planet, leaving a huge trail of destruction everywhere. Once he stuns Bulla with such a strong and sudden attack, Realo's hand grabs her by the head and brings her back to him. With a merciless grip, Realo begins to crush the patroller's head while laughing and saying that he will make her pay for everything she did. But Bulla doesn't give up, and then starts firing a series of energy attacks at close range against Rildo's abdomen, who has no choice but to let go of her, only to receive a blow that sends him to the ground. Bulla then finishes her counterattack by concentrating her energy and firing it into a powerful Kamehameha, which, when Rildo sees it coming at him, screams in fear of the attack. The energy torrent hits home, causing a monstrous explosion that spreads across a vast area of that planet, showing the great power concentrated in that attack. Proving to be a very resistant machine, Rildo survives that shot. However, his body shows clear signs of damage. Bulla praises him and admits that she spared no effort on the Kamehameha. She says that Rildo is certainly much more powerful than the robot she has faced so far. Even so, he won't be able to defeat her. The general disagrees and reveals to her that this is still a long way from being his full power. Rildo releases a large amount of energy, creating a powerful vortex around him, mixing energy, wind, and powerful electric discharges. His body begins to change, gaining extra layers of armor, and also a drill in one of his arms. General Rildo reveals a powerful transformation. Bulla is on alert, recognizing that her enemy's power has increased to a more worrying level. The Saiyan raises her Super Saiyan 2's ki even further, saying that it doesn't matter that Rildo has gotten stronger. She won't go back. The two then resume the fight, now increasing the intensity of their physical and energetic attacks much more, shaking the entire structure of that planet and causing a true avalanche of destruction. Bulla fires a barrage of ki attacks at Rildo, but he easily blocks it with an energy dome that forms around his body. Rildo's response comes soon after, when the robot opens his mouth and fires a beam of green energy at her, which she manages to dodge, and then sees that when this energy hits the ground, it turns everything into metal. "What a strange ability," she comments when seeing what happens. Seeing that Bulla escaped this attack, the robot general extends his drill arm towards her, and makes this drill gain a gigantic proportion, causing a powerful drilling in the vast area of the planet's ground. With his drill showing piercing power enough to destroy both the metal created by him and the common ground, Bulla manages to avoid this attack too, just barely. She impressedly admits that this attack was really dangerous. General Rildo fires that weird beam at her again, and Bulla, knowing that she can't be hit by it, escapes as best she can. General Rildo chases her, continuing with the shots, while the Saiyan runs away while trying to dodge. As Bulla dodges these rays, they hit the planet, and before long, that entire planet becomes a metal planet. Earth, water, mountains, trees, everything turns into metal. Bulla continues to run away from the shots. However, she starts to get tired until finally her body is hit. The thick metallic crust begins to spread across her body, and Bulla falls from the sky, reaching the ground in despair. Damn, this way I'll turn into a statue. Realizing that she has no choice, Bulla begins to concentrate her power, and now releases her Super Saiyan aura with even more intensity, with her flames extending further and the electrical blast coming even more ferociously as her hair starts to grow. The now metallic planet trembles, impressing General Rildo, who sees the metal around Bulla starting to boil. Not intending to allow Bulla to free herself, Rildo makes another attack with his drill arm, a fatal blow. But Bulla at the last moment breaks free from the metallic crust in an explosion of power. And now free, to General Rildo's complete shock, she throws a punch at him, and with his bare hand, Bulla Super Saiyan 3 shatters the robot's drill arm. In the world of the gods, Gogeta feels Bulla's energy and pays attention to this. Well, it looks like that girl is using a very high amount of power. I better watch out for that. He looks at Gohan and Vegito, where the Beast Form and Super Saiyan 3 fight in an absolutely intense exchange of blows, making that entire huge planet go through unimaginable catastrophes, causing great despair in Zamasu, who will have to fix everything later. Even though Vegito greatly increased his power from Super Saiyan 2 to Super Saiyan 3 and had a lot of advantage in the fight at first, Gohan is already managing to adapt to it, proving once again his surprising evolution capacity. Seeing the way the two are so focused on each other, Gogeta thinks, it seems like Vegito is very focused on Gohan right now, so I better pay attention to the girl. Gogeta closes his eyes in an act of concentration. After witnessing an extraordinary increase in power in Bulla, General Rildo becomes very angry and complains, "Damn, where do you Saiyans get so much power from?" "Sorry, it's just that I have somewhat privileged genetics," she boasts, her long golden hair blowing in the wind. "What do you mean by that? What privileged genetics are these?" Rildo asks. "Simple. My father is just the most powerful Saiyan in the entire universe," she responds. When he hears this, General Rildo seems to notice something. Kari, who watches everything that is happening through his magic together with Android 21, is also very attentive when Bulla says this. "Is her father the most powerful Saiyan in this universe?" Kari repeats what Bulla just said, intrigued. She can only be referring to Vegito, since that man called Gogeta doesn't belong to this universe. another Android 21 deduces. Campari then gets very excited. So Vegito has a daughter too. This couldn't be more perfect. Gogeta also monitors this fight. He does this through his extremely advanced telepathic ability provided by Shinken. Using his telepathy, he can hear everything Bulla and Realo talk about. Something similar to what King Kai does thanks to his special antennas, but with even greater effectiveness. After hearing this part of their conversation, Gogeta teleports away. Chambers and Daishinken notice him leaving and become curious. At his base, Campari can't contain his excitement. Perfect! Vegito also has a daughter. I bet Vados and Vod didn't know that. He says ecstatic. With this girl, my plans will come true much faster. I will capture her immediately. But then Campari sees through his hologram someone arriving with a teleport at Bulla's side. Damn, it can't be. Bulla sees Gogeta arrive at her side with the teleportation and gets curious. She asks what Gogeta is doing there, since considering Rildo's power level, he is definitely not a job for Gogeta. Gogeta explains that he only intends to observe and will not intervene in the fight. Bulla likes to hear this, but she confidently says that Gogeta's curiosity won't last long, as in a few seconds this guy will be finished. Gogeta disagrees and then tells her, "Don't be hasty." From this guy's expression, I can see that he still hides power. After informing Bulla about this, he addresses General Rildo. "Hey, you still have more power, don't you? Use it at once." Bulla is surprised and asks General Rildo if this is true. But General Rildo is more worried about something else. He is unsure whether he should continue with this fight or not, as the situation changed with Gogeta's arrival. At the Evil Angel's base, Android 21 asks what Campari is going to do now. He replies very thoughtfully, "Damn, that bastard Gogeta is a very inconvenient guy. Now that he's arrived, it'll be too risky for me to go there." Campari thinks for a few more seconds, until he finally makes his decision. General Rildo remains still without knowing what to do. But not for long, as Campari speaks to his mind through telepathy, giving the following instructions. "General Rildo, listen carefully. I want you to continue the fight against this girl and discover the extent of her powers. This bastard called Gogeta has made it clear that he does not intend to intervene in the fight, and it's not like him or Vegito to lie. So for now, fight carefree." After listening to these instructions, General Rildo responds, also mentally, "Understood, sir." However, as they talk, Gogeta remains very attentive, staring at Rildo. Did he hear this conversation? After spending some time in silence, General Rildo finally gives his answer to the Saiyans. "Alright, as long as you are fair and don't fight at the same time, I will continue this battle and show my real power." Rildo points his hand at the planet's ground, which was transformed into metal by him. As the robot begins to emanate electricity, strange wires come out of the ground and wrap around his body. And at the moment, the general begins to be enveloped by a thick metallic crust. Bulla, who previously had a completely calm and confident expression, now looks at her opponent more closely, realizing that his power is increasing a lot. Gogeta, on the other hand, is not surprised, as he had already realized that Rildo had more power. In the next second, the robot general's body takes on a completely new form, a metallic form. After being transformed, he asks, "What do you think of that Saiyan girl?" Even though she is surprised by this new increase in the enemy's power, Bulla remains confident and responds by saying that Rildo can use whatever form he wants. She will destroy him no matter what. Bulla and Rildo resume the fight, meeting each other and starting an exchange of blows while ascending to the sky in the form of a whirlwind of power. Gogeta just watches them, very entertained to finally be watching a different fight. Bulla and Rildo unleash a rain of energy attacks on the planet, all of which are attacks fired at each other that don't find their target, and then hit the ground, causing several explosions that destroy the environment. The two advance towards each other. He tears through the sky in the form of blue energy, and she in the form of yellow energy. The meeting between the two is so aggressive that it generates an explosion of power that destroys everything around them, and causes a strong wave of impact to reverberate throughout the planet. Bulla fires a key attack at Rildo. He makes his body dissipate in the form of liquid metal to later reappear elsewhere. Bulla observes his ability with great concern. In a fraction of a second, he can go from an extremely rigid metal state to a liquid state. However, that's not the only problem. Rildo manipulating the metallic objects on the planet makes dozens of beams project towards Bulla, who tries to defend herself by striking these beams away. However, she is inevitably surrounded by all those objects, which transform into a large metallic sphere. Then, in the form of a malleable metal, General Rildo protects himself against the dome in which he trapped Bulla and hits the Saiyan with all his strength, carrying her from the sky to the ground with a very strong attack. Bulla is noticeably sore after receiving this blow, and then she complains. "Damn, you're starting to annoy me with these tricks." General Rildo says that no matter what she does, he will be able to continue recovering, while she will lose more and more energy. Her defeat is just a matter of time. After thinking for a moment, Bulla says, "You're right. All the metal on this planet serves as fuel for you. Using this metal, you recover your body from injuries and also renew your energy. As long as there is metal nearby, you will continue fighting tirelessly and will be almost immortal. So I've already made my decision. I'm going to destroy this entire planet. Realo says that it won't be that simple, and that after he covered this planet with his metal, it became much more resistant than an ordinary planet, and will not be destroyed by any attack. However, Bulla, who is now entirely surrounded by the Super Saiyan's fiery energy, responds by saying that this certainly won't be just any attack. Gogeta realizes what she's intending to do, and becomes a little more serious. Realo notices that the amount of energy that Bulla is releasing is really large, and he starts to get worried. He accumulates energy in his hands, and says that whatever she is intending to do, he will not allow it. But before he could stop it, Bulla shouts, "Final explosion!" The Saiyan's power is finally dispersed in a colossal explosion of pure energy, spreading far beyond where they are, completely destroying that planet taken over by General Realo's metal and spreading across a large part of space. When the huge explosion ends, Gogeta remains standing with his arms crossed, without showing any injuries even though he was hit. Bulla, on the other hand, is breathless and injured, in addition to having regressed to base form. But the one who suffered the most was certainly General Realo, whose body was almost completely torn to pieces. "It's not possible!" the general exclaims in complete shock. "She had enough power to destroy all that metal created by me?" The person who responds is Gogeta, who explains, "Bulla's power in Super Saiyan 3 was always superior to yours, even in your metallic form. However, she encountered two major problems in this fight. The first was dealing with your manipulation of the planet's metal, and the second was that she had to fight while continuously containing her power to avoid the excessive energy drain that Super Saiyan 3 normally provokes." "Are you saying she was more powerful than me all along?" Realo asks in complete frustration. "Of course I do," Gogeta responds. "That's why I didn't mind letting her fight alone against you. I always knew that her combat potential was greater than yours. And also, I let her use this explosion technique because I knew her body would resist. Unlike what happened to Vegeta from my reality when he used it on Majin Buu." General Realo begins to curse the whole situation, and recognizing that he has no longer able to fight, he turns to Kari through telepathy, begging, "Sir, please take me back." Kari hears his general's cry, and then, addressing Android 21, he gives the order, "Do it at once." Android 21 takes a remote control from her clothes, and then presses the only button on that control. An alert begins to be issued by General Realo's body, who knows the meaning of this alert and begins to scream for forgiveness, filled with despair. After that, his body is completely destroyed in an explosion. Bulla is surprised by that, but Gogeta isn't. The person who was commanding him certainly chose to destroy this machine that he considered useless. He explains to the girl. Bulla says this is a shame, as she would like to examine his mechanisms with her mother to create a machine as powerful as him, or even more. With everything over, Gogeta looks at her with a proud smile, noting the following. She is very cunning to fight, and also very skilled. Bulma's intelligence combined with Vegito's battle aptitude did her good. Kari sits thoughtfully on his throne. Android 21 asks why he didn't bring General Realo back, since she could fix him and maybe make improvements. Kari says that now that the Battle Machine Army and the Realo models have all been destroyed by the Saiyan Girl and the other members of the Galactic Patrol, General Realo wouldn't be so useful, since he was created to lead the robotic army. It will take a while for us to produce a new army. When that happens, we can build a model similar to Realo. The angel compliments. Then Kari says that even if they produce a new army, now that they have caught the attention of the Galactic Patrol and Gogeta, it would be useless as this new army would be destroyed as well. At this point, they need to focus their efforts on finding an effective way to deal with them. Kari makes a teleportation, taking him and 21 out of the room and making them appear in the Fortress Laboratory right in front of the capsule of that project they called Cell Ultra. Looking almost hypnotized at that developing android, Kari states, "Our best option to defeat the Galactic Patrol, Gogeta and Vegito, is this android that will be my masterpiece." Android 21, on the other hand, is reluctant. "But my lord, the project is still incomplete." However, Kari displays an ecstatic smile when responding, "When one last ingredient is added, it will be done." Android 21 understands what he means, but asks how they will do what he is planning with Gogeta on the radar. Using them, Kari says, "Looking to one of my sides, where a row of capsules with something lies inside. Do you intend to use them?" Android 21 asks, surprised. Kari confirms, "Yes." Finally, the extermination team will be used again, and they will not fail. On an uninhabited planet, a series of explosions happen. Gogeta is in the middle of a battle, moving nimbly across the planet's ground, dodging multiple ki blasts. At this moment, Gogeta is completely in disbelief, barely believing what is happening. He simply didn't expect to live to see this happen. Those who fight against Gogeta are Pilaf, Shu, and Mai. And to the Saiyan's complete shock, they are extremely powerful, to the point of offering him a challenge. While Pilaf fires energy shots at him, Shu advances, brandishing his sword to execute an attack, which Gogeta deftly dodges, seeing the ground below him being hit, and then the entire planet being split in half by the blade's cut. Then the one who attacks is Mai, who carries a shotgun and aims at him with a weapon. After aiming, Mai fires the shot, which Gogeta also dodges with a quick movement, and sees a gigantic crater being opened in the planet's ground thanks to the power of the projectile. The power of the shot was so great that a hole opened from one end of the planet to the other. Gogeta soon understood that in the dimension that these three come from, the scale of power is totally different from their home dimension. These three people, who in his dimension are extremely weak, in this other reality surpass the level of the gods of destruction he knows. And that's not all. The weapons they are using seem to be common weapons in their reality, but in this reality they are capable of damaging planets. While firing incessant energy shots at Gogeta as if his energy would never run out, Pilaf laughs in an evil way while saying that in this universe he is as powerful as a god and intends to act as such, dominating this entire universe. But Gogeta, at the same time as he avoids a super fast sequence of swords from Shu, responds to Pilaf saying that won't happen. A sword from Shu even cuts a lock of Gogeta's hair, who is impressed by his speed. "I'll make mincemeat of you," Shu threatens, continuing his incessant attacks. Suddenly, Gogeta notices something and his face takes on a much more serious expression. Shu swings his sword with technique and aggression in a precise cut that hits Gogeta's collarbone and buries the blade into the Saiyan's stomach. "Gotcha!" He celebrates. However, in less than a second, Gogeta's wound is completely healed, surprising him and the others. Shu tries to remove his sword from Gogeta's body, but the blade is stuck, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't. He asks what Gogeta did, and he replies that he just stiffed his body. This is easy when you master ki as he does. Shu leaves the blade stuck in Gogeta's body and tries to jump away, but Gogeta holds him in the air using telekinesis, and when Mai fires a shot with her shotgun at him, Gogeta moves Shu in front of him, using the Dog Man as a shield. Mai's shot hits Shu and pushes him away very injured. Mai is surprised by this, and Gogeta uses the second of surprise too, also with telekinesis, take the shotgun out of Mai's hand, make the weapon that now floats turn against her, and fire a point-blank shot that also pushes the woman away very injured. Gogeta removes Shu's sword from his body and then makes both Mai's shotgun and Shu's sword disappear from existence with a Hakai. These weapons are very dangerous in this dimension, he concludes as he destroys them. Seeing that his two companions are defeated, Pilaf becomes very angry and attacks Gogeta, making several attacks, but Gogeta easily dodges them all. Pilaf is very surprised by this and asks, "What happened? A few seconds ago you were being pressured, and now you defeated them in an instant." Gogeta responds, "Even though you are very powerful, I was always far above, but I was curious to see the extent of your powers. However, the situation has changed, and I have a more serious matter to worry about." Gogeta catches one of the thousands of punches thrown by Pilaf, and then with a single blow endowed with masterful precision, hits his neck and knocks him out. After defeating Pilaf, Gogeta reunites him, Shu, and Mai. The Saiyan heals Shu and Mai's injuries in an instant after extending his hands to them, and then sends them somewhere with teleportation while saying, "For now I will send you to a safe dimension. I will pick you up there later." Since he is apparently alone on the planet, Gogeta looks up at the sky and says, "I've already seen you guys. Get down here at once." Those that Gogeta speaks to are not inside the planet, but observing everything from afar in space. The mysterious trio, after hearing the Saiyan's call, descends to him, arriving from space to the planet's ground in a fraction of a second. Gogeta observes his three enemies for a moment and quickly concludes, "You're androids, aren't you? It explains why I only noticed you when you were close." They question how Gogeta noticed their presence if they don't have ki. He responds that his senses are very heightened because of the Shinken, and even though he is not transformed into his Shinken form, his senses are still very heightened because of this ability. He simply noticed their presence with his other senses. After finishing answering the android's question, it's Gogeta's turn to ask his question. He asks who they are and says he doesn't recognize them. The android that appears to be the leader of the group introduces them. "We are Android 13, 14, and 15. After the android introduces them, Gogeta thinks for a moment. Both in appearance and numbering, they resemble the androids created by Red Ribbon. but I have never seen any of them before. They were certainly created in a parallel reality. Gogeta concludes that their origin is not important. He smiles and in thoughts says, "The important thing is that they are acting exactly as I planned. I wonder if they've reached her already." The three androids notice Gogeta's smile and look at him curiously. At the Galactic Patrol Base, Bulla and Bulma work on another project, which is a battle robot. Bulla is very excited about this project. When this project is finished, even a person without powers will be able to face much more powerful beings. This will make weaker patrollers able to work on more difficult missions. Bulla tells her mother that she would like to be more involved with this project, but unfortunately she can't, because Gohan hasn't finished his training yet, and she needs to replace him. Bulma says she thought Bulla enjoyed participating in the battles too. Bulla admits that she actually enjoys it in a way, probably because of Vegito's Saiyan blood that runs through her veins. But in the end, technology is her true passion. In the base's control room, Jako continues to observe the patrol's missions through the various monitors that surround him. Noticing a new occurrence, he contacts Bulla via a communicator, informing her of the new mission. Bulla sighs, certainly not wanting to go, but as she can't deny the mission, she says goodbye to her mother and goes. Bulla is taken by teleportation technology to a planet where an android attacks a city without any hesitation, eliminating all the citizens he sees. As soon as Bulla arrives, she tells this android to stop doing what he is doing. The android stares at her with a completely indifferent expression, like a true machine devoid of emotion. And it is with this same expressionlessness that the android points his hand to the ground and accumulates power. Bulla realizes what he intends to do and screams at him not to do it while moving forward to try to stop him. But she can't, and the android's energy is fired, hitting the planet's ground and then completely destroying it in a single explosion. Only Bulla and the android remain, who now float through the wreckage of the planet in the vacuum. Bulla is now very angry and asks the android why he did that. He responds by saying that his intention was to get her attention, so he no longer needed the planet. Bulla is very irritated to hear him treating all those people as if they were nothing, but she is curious to know that attracting her was his goal. "What do you want with me? Doesn't have anything to do with those robots I destroyed?" she asks. Not willing to say much, the android responds in a short and direct way. "My mission is not to answer your questions. All you need to know is that my name is Super Android 16, and I'm here to take you." Bulla gives her answer, taking her combat stance and saying she won't go with him. "You have no choice," the android responds. He immediately reaches her at such an incredible speed that Bulla is unable to react, and then lands a very strong punch that sinks into the Saiyan's stomach, making her wince in terrible pain. Realizing that the android was no joke, Bulla quickly transforms into a Super Saiyan and retaliates his attack with a side kick to the head. But it doesn't even have enough strength to make Super 16 move. Bulla recoils as she fires a wave of power at the energy. However, with great ease, he advances through the Saiyan's attack, quickly reaching her, grabbing her by the neck, and starting a chokehold. However, Bulla doesn't stand still. She reacts immediately, raising her power to Super Saiyan 2, releasing a flaming aura surrounded by electricity with great power. However, this doesn't affect the android, who keeps his hand on her neck. She launches several kicks against the enemy, reaching the android's abdomen, ribs, and face with her attacks. But again, Super 16, none of that has any effect, as the android remains immobile. Finally, Bulla resorts to another power increase, Super Saiyan 3. As the aura of fire and lightning expands, 16 is pulled away from the girl. She is now breathing desperately, her hand on her sore neck, expressing great relief. Like any galactic patroller, Bulla is equipped with a technological device hidden in her uniform that allows her to breathe in the vacuum of space. In addition to relief, Bulla also feels very angry. "You bastard! You're going to pay for this!" she threatens the android. Super 16 doesn't respond. He just stares blankly at his opponent. Gogeta realizes from the sensation of ki that Bulla has already resorted to her Super Saiyan 3. "It seems I was right. They sent someone very powerful to deal with her," he thinks. Suddenly, the first of one of the androids is already inches from her face. It's Android 15 who rushes forward with an ultra-fast punch at the Saiyan, who at the last moment managed to dodge it, letting him pass straight through. Soon after, Gogeta has to make a jump because of how low an attack came from Android 14. And while he's in the air, the one who attacks is Android 13, who after forming a super concentrated sphere of red ki shoots at him. Gogeta escapes the attack with a teleportation and then sees the gigantic explosion happen in space. And although the attack does not explode on the planet, only the pressure of the explosion completely crushes that entire planet. These guys are really very strong. Gogeta recognizes. Gogeta faces androids 13, 14, and 15, while a trio that belongs to the extermination team sent by evil angels surrounds him, looking for an opening to attack. The first attack comes from Android 14, who thought he had found an opening, but was mistaken when he saw Gogeta skillfully avoid his blow, and then hit him with another one that threw him away. The next one is Android 13, who points one of his fingers at him and fires a super concentrated energy laser aimed at Gogeta's back, but he is paying attention and turns around, diverting the course of the attack with a kick. Android 15 emerges from below, attempting an upward punch aimed at the Saiyan's chin. However, Gogeta swiftly evades it by moving his head back, allowing the android's punch to pass through. Taking advantage of the opening, Gogeta propels his body forward again, using his own head to strike the android in the face. 13 and 14 approach at the same time to exchange blows against Gogeta, and then 15 returns to participate as well. Even though these three extremely powerful androids are attacking at the same time, Gogeta manages to keep up with them. On the other hand, Bulla, even in Super Saiyan 3, is not able to match the level of Super 16. As they exchange attacks in a frantic movement through the space of the Great Universe, the Saiyan realizes a great disadvantage in relation to the android, and while her attacks have no effect on the enemy, 16's attacks cause considerable damage to her body. Bulla moves away from the enemy and recognizes that she needs help, asks Commander Jako through the communicator. Jako is monitoring the patroller's mission in the base's command room when he hears Bulla's call, who asks for reinforcements immediately, preferably from Gogeta. Jako tells her that Gogeta can't right now, as he's in the middle of a battle too, but says he'll look for patrollers available to help her. However, at that moment, an energy attack hits the Galactic Patrol base, opening a hole in the control room through which an invader enters. At the moment that the ship is hit, Bulma, who is in the technological development room working on the battle robot, loses her balance due to the intense shaking of the ship and wonders what is happening. In the command room, Commander Jako asks who the invader is and how he managed to get to the base without being noticed by the patrol's very advanced radars. The attacker responds to the commander's questions. "You can call me Super Android 17, and the answer to your question is simple. Your radars didn't detect me simply because I moved at such an extraordinary speed that there wasn't time for that to happen." Jako says that Super 17 is either very brave or very stupid to attack the Galactic Patrol base like that, since in an instant all the most powerful warriors in the universe will be against him. But then Super 17 smiles and says that won't happen. Concentrating his energy, 17 releases multiple electrical blasts from his body that spread throughout the base, overloading the systems and causing a short circuit in all of them. This way, all communication that Jako could have is lost. Jako doesn't believe what's happening, saying that the Galactic Patrol systems are very advanced and should support this kind of thing. But Super 17 responds very proud of himself, saying that the patroller systems are completely outdated compared to him. Jako asks what he wants there and if the android's target is him. Super 17 says no, his target is someone else. This answer makes Jako curious. In his fortress, Kari observes everything through his magic, sitting on his throne with Android 21 at his side. Android 21 seems a bit irritated and says she understands why Kari wants the Saiyan girl, but she doesn't understand why he wants that woman. Kari says the answer should be obvious, and that this person's help will be crucial to realizing their plan. 21 doesn't like to hear this, but she doesn't argue. Using telepathy, Kari speaks to Super 17's mind, ordering him not to waste time and get straight to the point. After receiving this order, Super 17 turns his back to Jako to go somewhere else, but Jako suddenly disappears from where he is and reappears in front of the android. He says that whatever the android wants, he won't have it. 17 tells him to get out of the way, but Jaco's response is to draw his gun and shoot him with an extremely powerful energy shot, which sends the android out of the ship. Only several kilometers later does 17 manage to stop his body, and when the commander of the Galactic Patrol comes flying towards him, the android admits surprised by this attack. Now, with 2 weapons in hand, Jako says he may not be a great fighter, but no one handles the Patrol's extremely advanced weapons better than him, so things won't be as easy as 17 is thinking. Super 17 advances towards the commander of the Galactic Patrol, who unleashes a barrage of energy shots from his 2 weapons in a split second. The android incredibly dodges every shot as he closes in on him. Finally, he reaches Jako and delivers a punch, but Jako activates a technological shield to block 17's attack. With a swift maneuver, the shield transforms into an electrical network, ensnaring and electrocuting the android. Jako tells his enemy that his equipment was made by the most intelligent woman in the universe, and although he himself isn't that strong, the fact that he can use this equipment so well makes him a very high-level opponent. Only after he says these things does Jako realize what the android wants. It's Bulma, isn't it? You want her? He questions the android. With a blast of ki, 17 destroys the technological network that trapped him and attacks the patroller again. Jako extends both weapons to shoot at him, but 17 swiftly disarms him, taking both weapons from his hands and crushing them. After that, he attempts to grab Jako, but Jako quickly employs teleportation technology to conjure a stick into his hand. With the stick, he strikes the android, pushing him away. 17 gets a little impatient and says that this technology is really annoying, but that it won't save Jako for long. Gogeta continues the fight against the trio of androids who do their best to hit the Saiyan, who, despite facing all three at the same time, manages to deftly avoid their attacks. 14 and 15 come from the sides with a punch, while 13 comes from the front with a kick. But at the same time, Gogeta raises both his arms to defend the side attack and one of his knees to defend the frontal attack, thus defending himself from the three androids with a single movement. Then the enemies move away from the Saiyan. Android 13 gets very angry and tells Gogeta to give up at once, since it's 3 against 1 and he's going to lose regardless of what he does. Do you really think so? He asks in clear sarcasm, and then responds, "In that case, I think I'll fix my numerical disadvantage." Gogeta fills his lungs with air, and then simply creates 3 ghosts of himself, similar to Gotenks' ghost. The androids are completely surprised by this and ask what kind of trick this is. Look at this turn of events. It seems that now you are the ones with the numerical disadvantage. He makes fun of his opponents. Gogeta orders his ghosts to attack. Each ghost attacks an android. Unlike Gotenks' ghost, these do not explode with a simple touch. Instead, they begin real combat with the androids, exchanging several attacks. Even though they are just Gogeta's ghosts, each of them is on the same level as the androids, which leaves the 3 of them completely shocked. Gogeta just crosses his arms and watches their fight while teasing the androids by saying he's going to wait someone beats a ghost and comes to fight him. But while he provokes the androids with his words, his thoughts focus on Bulla. Pushing the power of her Super Saiyan 3 to the limit, Bulla continues to engage in an extremely arduous fight against Super Android 16. At that moment, she attacks him with countless spheres of energy that explode against the android's body, filling a large region of the dark void with lights in a luminous spectacle. However, all the spectacle is of no use, as 16's body remains intact. On the other hand, a single shot of 16, when hitting Bulla, creates an explosion equally powerful as all the multiple explosions created by her, and unlike how it was with 16, the attack truly has an effect on the Saiyan, who has her body very injured. Damn, where are the reinforcements Commander Jako promised? She asks herself, recognizing that she can't bear it much longer. Jako is thrown with extreme violence into the Galactic Patrol base through a powerful attack from Super Android 17. The patrol commander can no longer stand up, impressed by the fact that few of the enemy's attacks have been powerful enough to overcome the resistance provided by his technological suit. Jako can no longer maintain his consciousness and passes out. 17 enters the ship right after him. The invader praises the patrol commander, saying that he really impressed him with his resistance, considering he is someone who does not have great powers. He recognizes that Jako uses such powerful technology really well, but unfortunately he was dealing with an impossible opponent. 17 extends his hand to the fallen patrolman and says he will end this once and for all. But when he was about to completely eliminate Jako, something hits him and takes the android out of the ship again. 17 is carried away from the ship, and he sees that what hit him was some kind of battle robot. This robot is the same one that Bulma was working on with Bulla a short time ago, and she is the one controlling it inside this robot. Bulma is a little scared since the project isn't finished yet, but she had no choice but to intervene. Android 17 realizes that Bulma is the one controlling this robot and asks if she really intends to confront him with it. Bulma says that this machine is being created precisely so that someone weaker can face someone stronger. So this is the perfect test. The robot's arm is pointed in the direction of 17. Several holes open, and a series of missiles are fired at the android. 17 protects his body with an energy dome, and when his shield is hit by the missiles, gigantic explosions occur in that region of space. Super 17 is surprised by the power of these missiles, as he did not expect them to be so powerful. Bulma wastes no time and leads the robot to attack, reaching 17 with a super punch, but it is easily held by him. However, Bulma had anticipated this and promptly activates a jet of extremely powerful flames from the robot's hand, completely engulfing the enemy's body. The flames released by the robot could easily incinerate an entire planet. However, apparently for Super 17, this is nothing, as the android remains unshakable even after being bathed in flame. With a single punch, Super 17 penetrates the robot's arm, and then he simply pulls Bulma out of the machine. 17 praises Bulma, admitting that this battle robot had impressive power, even though it is apparently a project still in development. The rumor about the great genius being the creator of the Galactic Patrol technology were true. He says, "But unfortunately for you, I'm not just anyone. And worms like you and that other guy never had a chance of defeating me. Because of the strength with which he holds her, Bulma ends up fainting. With the scientist who created the robot unconscious in his hands, the android lets it float through space like a large inanimate metallic junk. With Bulma in hand, 17 announces that his mission is complete. In another very distant point in that great universe, Bulla and Super Android 16 face off. At this point, Bulla is already completely exhausted and injured, having tried in every possible way to resist Super 16. But even in Super Saiyan 3, all her resistance was useless. Super Android 16 has his body completely intact and without scratches, still maintaining his indifferent posture and devoid of any type of feeling. But Bulla doesn't give up and advances in a determined attack, delivering the most powerful punch she could give the android. However, when the punch lands, it is her hand that breaks. At the height of her pain and fatigue, she regresses to her base form, and then the fight is ended by Super 16, who brutally hits her in the ribs, destroying the Saiyan's bones and causing her to faint through overwhelming pain. Once Bulla is passed out, 16 holds her, puts her on his shoulder, and tells that his mission is complete. Kari smiles very satisfied. In front of him, teleported by the angel's magic, Super Android 16 and 17 arrive, who respectively carry Bulla and Bulma. The angel praises his machines. "Very well, Super Android 16 and 17. You have completed your tasks perfectly." Then he telepathically communicates with the others. "Androids 13, 14, and 15. You can now return. I'll bring you back right now." The three androids, while facing the ghosts created by Gogeta, receive this announcement and prepare to leave. But suddenly, Gogeta's ghosts, who was fighting against them, exchanging blows, grab the three of them. When the ghosts do this, Gogeta creates energy shields around them, and then he says goodbye to the machines. "Well, thanks for keeping me entertained for those few minutes, but now I'm tired of this game." Gogeta's ghosts explode while holding the android, but the explosion is contained within the shields created by Gogeta. Each explosion from a ghost had enough power to destroy an entire ordinary-sized universe. But as he didn't want to cause damage over a large area, Gogeta contained the expansion of the explosion. When he undoes the domes, he sees that all that remains of what those androids were are a small few pieces of their internal mechanism. Damn, androids 13, 14, and 15 were destroyed at the last moment. Android 21 laments. Kari says it's a shame, but at least they did their job, which in the end is what really matters. However, there is still use for them, the angel adds as he taps his staff on the ground. Gogeta sees those few pieces of the androids magically disappear and becomes a little curious about that. The pieces of androids 13, 14, and 15 appear before Kari and the others. 21. "Reuse this wreckage," he says to the android next to him. "But first, you already know what you have to do, right?" he asks while staring with a smile at the passed out Bulma. Android 21 is reluctant to do what Kari is asking, and says that her mind is enough to carry out his plans. But Kari insists, saying that this woman is the brilliant mind behind the Galactic Patrol, certainly one of the most intelligent people in her dimension, or the most intelligent. If the intelligence of the two are united, the result will be incomparable. 21 tries to insist, but in an act that surprises her, Kari gets up from his throne and slaps the android in the face, who immediately falls to the ground with her hand on the painful face. "Enough of that," Kari screams. "Your job is not to argue with me, but to obey me. Do it at once or you will be destroyed." 21 remains silent for some time, looking at the angel. The expression on her face seems to be a mixture of fear and disappointment. Android 21 begins a transformation process, with her body that looks like an earthling now taking on a very peculiar shape, very reminiscent of Majin Buu. She makes a piece of her body detach and capture Bulma, and then brings that part of her body back, absorbing the other woman. After doing this, she returns to her base form. Kari looks at her curiously and asks how 21 is feeling now. "Well, now I have access to the intelligence of this woman named Bulma, and it is very advanced indeed. I have at least double my mental capacity now, 21 responds, but despite her response being positive, she still maintains a displeased appearance. Splendid, Kari exclaims happily. With the mind of this woman called Bulma and Vegito's genes present in Bulla's body, the Cell Ultra project will be completed much faster and also with much more power than I expected. Kari tells Android 21 to hurry up and get to work, as they have to finish this android as quickly as possible to destroy Vegito once and for all, and also his allies. In the world of the gods, a magnificent combat unfolds. Multiple explosions of impact and energy happen everywhere on the planet at the same time, that rays of light travel across the globe many times per second. The level of speed and power in that fight is simply extraordinary. Within the planet, many weather phenomena happen at the same time. The entire Earth is affected by an earthquake of catastrophic scales. In the large central lake of the planet, which is the size of an ocean, an unprecedented tsunami occurs. Lights fill the skies in the form of bolts and lightning, whose thunderous sound echoes across the globe. Giant torpedoes form everywhere, taking trees from forests and even parts of the ground. But none of these powerful natural phenomena cause more damage to the planet than the monstrous impact waves that are generated by the attacks of combatants, whose colliding fists generate powerful gusts of wind and electrical currents. The combatants are Gohan and Vegito, the first fighting in his beast form, and the second fighting in Super Saiyan Blue. Zamasu, Chamras, and Daishinken witness this combat. Zamasu can't even stay in place. In order to avoid being carried away by the strong wind and the force of the impacts of the attacks, he needs to hold on to Chamras. Meanwhile, Chamras and Daishinken remain completely mesmerized by the fight. Daishinken comments that Gohan's potential is truly extraordinary. A few days ago, he could barely fight Vegito in regular Super Saiyan, but now using the same transformation, he is already able to maintain a fight against Vegito's Super Saiyan Blue. Chamras agrees, but reminds Daishinken that the objective of the training itself has not yet been completed, as Vegito's intention was always to make Gohan use that other transformation, which has not happened yet. However, Daishinken reminds the Hakaishin that despite not having used the transformation yet, Gohan has already managed to advance a lot in controlling his own power in these training. And this indirectly helps a lot, since in the end, the objective of all this has always been to do Gohan can better control his power and fury. In short, even though he hadn't used the transformation yet, he had definitely progressed. Gohan and Vegito advance against each other, both preparing a punch with great power. However, they stop immediately when Gogeta appears behind them with a teleport. Surprised and scared, Gohan asks Gogeta not to do anything like that anymore, as he was not containing his strength and could hurt him. Gogeta laughs at this and tells Gohan that he needs to increase his power much more before he has the capacity to hurt him. Vegito asks what Gogeta wants and why he appeared like that. Gogeta says that a problem has arisen, and the two of them will definitely want to know what it is. Obviously, Gohan and Vegito are intrigued by this. While Zamasu is repairing the damage to the planet, Chamras, Daishinken, Gogeta, Vegito, and Gohan are talking. Gogeta tells them about the robot case and how Bulla was kidnapped by a very powerful android. Obviously, Gohan and Vegito are worried about Bulla and say that they need to find out as quickly as possible what is behind this case involving the robots. But Gogeta says that they don't need to investigate anything, as he already knows who is behind all this: an angel. They ask how he knows this, and Gogeta explains everything by saying that while Bulla was fighting General Rildo, he became interested in the fight and started paying attention to her. During this fight, when Bulla said that her father was the strongest Saiyan in this universe, referring to Vegito, General Rildo became very interested, and so he realized that General Rildo knew Vegito in some way. That is, he probably had a relationship with Angel. After realizing this, Gogeta teleported to the battle site, not with the intention of fighting, as he knew that Bulla was fully capable of defeating Rildo. His intention was actually to observe the situation and confirm his suspicions. While he was near Bulla and Rildo, he managed to use his advanced telepathic abilities to overhear a mental conversation between General Rildo and his master, who really was an angel, as he suspected. It's been a few days since Bulla's fight against General Rildo. The enemy certainly took that time to wait for the dust to settle and then make his attack. They sent androids much more powerful than General Rildo to distract me, and also another android to capture Bulla. Gogeta finishes explaining. After hearing this, Vegito gets furious and grabs Gogeta by his clothes. "You bastard! You didn't even think to let me know that an angel was interested in my daughter, even after one of them tried to kill Gohan?" Vegito asks. Gogeta justifies while maintaining a calm tone. "I didn't want to interfere with your training with Gohan. nor did I want you to intervene in this situation. Furthermore, I realized from the angel's conversation with General Rildo that he didn't want to kill Bulla. His intentions were different from Wad's intentions with Gohan, so rest assured that he won't harm Bulla for now. Despite Gogeta's words, Vegito doesn't calm down. You say that with such calmness because it is not your daughter who is in the hands of the enemy. Feeling the grip of Vegito's hands on his clothes intensify, Gogeta pushes him away and then disagrees, saying that in his dimension, Bulla is Vegeta's daughter, just as Gohan is Goku's son. So he does care about them, and he wouldn't be so calm unless he was sure that nothing bad would happen to Bulla. How can you be so sure nothing will happen to her? Vegito confronts him. Maybe this angel won't harm her right away, but what about after he gets what he wants from her? When Vegito asks this question, Gogeta smiles and responds calmly, saying that won't happen because this angel won't get what he wants from her. There is another reason I've been following Bulla and Rildo's battle closely. Having witnessed her fight using all her power, I was able to become very familiar with her ki. And since her ki had such a strong presence in my consciousness, my ability to feel it is much greater. This is one of the various skills I acquired thanks to Shinken. In short, I can feel Bulla's ki perfectly, even though she's in another dimension and doesn't have high ki. In other words, you can go to Bulla whenever you want. Is that it, Mr. Gogeta? Gohan asks. Gogeta confirmed. But then Vegito realizes something else and asks Gogeta with even more anger. You did that on purpose, didn't you? You knew that Angel was going to kidnap Bulla and you let that happen to get to him. With a serious expression, already expecting a bad reaction, Gogeta confirmed. Vegito's ki begins to rise as absolute fury takes over his face and heart. You bastard! How dare you use my daughter as bait? But then Gogeta justifies himself. You do not realize? This angel discovered that Bulla was your daughter and seemed obsessed with her. This guy would stop at nothing to get his hands on her or kill the girl. With my plan, we can get to him and eliminate that bastard once and for all. It's better to take this risk now than to take a bigger risk later. After Gogeta says that, Chamra smiles and says that he has a very skeptical and practical way of thinking. You would make a good god of destruction, the Hakaishin says. Gogeta says that the level of mental evolution he reached thanks to Shinken makes him give more room to rationality than emotion, and makes him see things in a different way. Shinken tells Vegito that no matter how angry he is with Gogeta, now is not the time to argue. Gohan agrees and says that the best thing they can do now is to go and rescue Bulla as quickly as possible and destroy this angel. Vegito is forced to nod. Alright, let's go at once. But then he turns to Gogeta and makes his threat. But if anything bad happens to Bulla, I will completely destroy you. Although the threat is very serious, Gogeta smiles and says that this is the spirit, but he better save all this fury for the angel who wants his daughter. In the laboratory, Campari watches Android 21 work. Now, next to the capsule where Cell Ultra is kept, there is another capsule where Bulla is being kept. Campari praises Android 21, saying that now she has Bulma's intelligence, she is working much more efficiently, since she has already finished that other project, and is moving forward extremely quickly with Cell. 21 doesn't respond because even though she recognizes the improvement in her efficiency, she still doesn't like the idea of having been forced to absorb another scientist. Campari smiles eagerly as he watches 21 at work. However, his smile is completely shattered when he notices an alert on his staff. It cannot be! How did they get here? The angel screams in surprise when he realizes the presence of his enemy. Already in that dimension, but outside the technological fortress, lie the three Saiyans, Gohan, Gogeta, and Vegito. Campari appears before them. He asks about their presence there, curious to know how they managed to get to that private dimension. But Vegito doesn't even respond to the angel, advancing against him, transforming into Super Saiyan Blue, and, with blood in his eyes, attacking with a punch that Campari defends with his staff. After holding Vegito's punch, the angel pushes him away with the motion of his staff. He then raises his staff to block a punch from Gohan, who descends upon him in his ultimate form with a powerful blow. However, the angel effortlessly blocks the attack. Campari propels Gohan into the air and launches an energy beam at him. The beam would have hit Gohan if it weren't for Gogeta flying towards him and moving him out of harm's way. Vegito, without any patience to delay in the fight, begins to unleash his real power, invoking his special transformation that combines the powers of Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct. Gohan, Gogeta, go after Bulla. I'm in charge of eliminating that bastard, the Saiyan who had just transformed says, staring at his opponent voraciously. But Campari says that won't happen. He slams his staff on the ground, and then Super Android 17, Super Android 16 and a previously unknown android appear at his side. Without wasting time, Super Android 16 takes a super powerful flight towards Gohan with such high speed that Gohan has no time to react and is hit in the chest by the android's two hands, which carries him away. Gogeta thinks about chasing them to help, but he immediately has to turn around to defend a punch from the mysterious android. For some reason, you look familiar, he tells the android. I'm Super Android 13, developed from androids 13, 14, and 15 solely to destroy you. The machine responds. Vegito advances against Kari again to land a flying hit on him, but Super Android 17 puts himself in front of the angel and forms an energy shield around them, making Vegito only hit the shield with his kick and then retreat. Get out of the way, you junk. I don't have the patience to face mere useless henchmen now, the Saiyan says, thirsty for the angel's blood. Kari tells Vegito that it's better not to treat Super 17 like a simple junk, or else he might regret it. After carrying Gohan away from the other Saiyans, Super Android 16 throws him against the ground of a forest and then lands next to him. Gohan gets up with a little difficulty because of the pain he feels in his chest due to the android's blow. 16 does a brief analysis of Gohan and says, your genes are similar to that girl named Bulla. If you are as strong as her, give up the fight at once. When he says this, Gohan realizes that the android in front of him now was responsible for his sister's kidnapping. He becomes furious and then unleashes the power of his beast form and charges at the enemy with full power. When Gohan reaches 16, their forearms cross, generating a monstrous impact that sweeps away all the trees in the vicinity. Gohan is completely surprised. This guy managed to stop my attack. It can't be. 16 counterattacks by punching Gohan in the chin and knocking him off the ground. But before Gohan could gain altitude, the android grabs him by the ankle and throws the Saiyan backward to the ground with great force. Still holding Gohan by the ankle, 16 points his other hand at him and fires a blast of energy that causes a gigantic explosion throughout that area. After this attack, Gohan already has reasonable injuries on his body, remaining down with the android holding him. Your power is incomparably greater than that of the Saiyan named Bulla, but it is still insufficient to beat me, the android says as he prepares a second energy attack. But this time Gohan reacts, firing a wave of energy at him that hits 16 and makes the android let go of his ankle as he is pushed away. After that, Gohan gets up and says that the android will pay for attacking his sister.